Hello, welcome. I have been obsessed with this game for like a month now. It started during finals week, which was not really a good time to purchase this game because I was just set into like a full frenzy. And I don't really have another outlet to discuss this. And so I thought, why don't I just talk to myself for a few hours and record it? And maybe somebody else will enjoy it. So this game, Code Realize, Guardian of Rebirth, is the first out of three games. I think it's technically one game and two fan discs, they're called. But this is the original. This is the main one. You're getting kind of a spoiler here, but maybe it's a fun sneak peek. And it has like the most insane lore ever. So I haven't played too many Otome games, I think they're called. I was super into Mystic Messenger as a kid. Like, I played it for way longer than anyone should ever play it. Like, into high school a little bit, which is like, that's a different story for another time. Like, it got to a point where I'd be like playing on family vacations, and my mom would be like, you need to get off that phone. You need to stop talking to Jum and Han and talk to your actual family. And then a few years ago, I played Pio Fiore, which is one where you like get involved with the mafia. That one's like super insane. I might even go into that one if I ever finish this one. Code Realize has some of the most insane, complicated lore in the world. Like, I am a mechanical engineering student and I didn't even understand like half the things they were talking about. Which is why I feel like it's good to just debrief, to lay it all out on the table. It's kind of an expensive game, it's like $40. And if you don't have that and you just want something to put on in the background and hear someone describe it to you for 2 hours, like, I think this would be perfect. And also, I love it so much. I love all the characters. I love all the voice acting. I love the art. Everything about it is perfect and beautiful. And so I have nothing else I'd rather talk about for 2 hours.
So just to kind of briefly explain how Code Realize works, basically it's a visual novel. So you're not really playing a game per se. All you do is pretty much just press the next button. But it is fully voice acted, and you are making choices along the way, okay? So you begin with 8 chapters of a common route, and in those chapters, you're going to be making choices that will ultimately decide which individual route you end up on, okay? And there are 5 individual routes for 5 different love interests, and once you're in that individual route, you're going to get 6 chapters with your love interest, and you can either get a good ending or a bad ending, depending on decisions you make in that individual route, okay? So it's very important to choose wisely. In this game, there are 5 love interests to choose from, okay? And they were all literary characters. I'm just going to briefly describe them because I think it's more fun to kind of learn more about them as we encounter them in the game and I show you guys their picture. But to start, we have Impy Barbicane. He is a genius engineer. We have Count Saint Germain, who is a rich French count. We have Abraham Van Helsing, who is a famous vampire hunter and a war hero. And we have Victor Frankenstein, who is a former alchemist and famous scientist. And finally, we have Arsène Lupin, who is a gentleman thief. And he is the true love interest of this game, okay? And that means that in order to get his route, we have to complete the other 4 routes first.
So this is us. We play as, I believe her canon name is Cardia. I named her Sadie because I'm a freak and need to have a self-insert in every piece of media that I consume. And I actually loved her as a main character. A lot of times I find issues with the main characters. I feel like they have no personality. They're kind of just there to be like a blank slate, which on some level is good because you can see yourself in those characters' shoes. But with Cardia, she definitely has her own personality, and it's a relatable one. Like, I agree with a lot of the stuff she does, a lot of the decisions she makes. She's very capable. She's like able to fight, and she's very smart as well, which I really appreciate. She holds her own. She does some of the saving sometimes, but then she's also saved, which I think is important because you don't want to be the one doing the saving all the time. And I think a good place to start is just telling you some things about her. So let's get into it. She has a deadly poison running through her, okay? And this poison makes it so that whatever touches her skin, her blood, I believe her hair is immune, but everything else, if you touch that, your skin is going to melt. in like the very first scene of the game, we have like her getting attacked by a dog. And the dog's like, he bites her leg and its face gets like melted off because she's just that powerful with this poison. And I'm sure you can see where this is going. With this poison in her veins, she's never been able to touch anyone. Super sad, especially for those of us playing this game, right? I mean, we're here for the romance, so difficult news. It was for sure a difficult blow to hear that in the first scene. So we open on this house in Wales. It's a cottage. It's overgrown. Ivy flowers up the walls. And inside this cottage lives us. It's our beautiful home. And we open with our father speaking to us. He says we're a monster. And this is the source of a lot of our trauma throughout the game, okay? The word monster, you're going to hear that more times than you can count. But basically, we're a monster, and we must never know love. And we can't ever know love because of this poison. And that we should just stay in this house forever. So that's what we've been doing, okay? So the British monarchy, currently we have Queen Victoria in power, the real one, and her royal guard is on the hunt for us. They're coming to our house, okay? So specifically, the captain of the royal guard, Lenhart, he's on the prowl and he is guiding his men to our cottage. And Lenhart is really driven by duty. He loves Queen Victoria. He does whatever she says. But on this mission particularly, they're not driven by Queen Victoria's orders. They're driven by the orders of an organization called Twilight, okay? We don't really know what Twilight is at this point. We're just hearing this for the first time. But we know that there's some kind of organization as part of the British government, okay? So Lenhart and his men, they go charging into this cabin. They're like tearing it up. It's like deserted. It's like kind of creepy. No one's really enjoying themselves. But they come across this room. They open the door. It's dark in there. There's toys, like dolls. It's like a really interesting vibe. And in the middle sits a girl. She's very beautiful, you know, of course. And she looks almost like a doll. She's like sitting there silently. That is when we open our eyes and the story switches to us. Hi, I just want to add that we have been in this house for the past 2 years, and before that, we have no memory, okay? So we have no memory of our father except for like a few sparse conversations. And other than that, we pretty much have amnesia. So we are basically being attacked by these random soldiers. And as I mentioned, like the dog comes at us and we burn its face off. And this immediately kind of like sends the guards into a frenzy. They were on a mission to find the monster. So they were told there was like a monster in Wales that needed to be like either captured or like disposed of if it was already dead. And so when they see us first in the room, they're like, this is not a monster. Like, this is a girl. Like, what are you talking about? Come to find out, after we burn the dog's face off, that we are a monster. Okay, just like Father said. So we're tied up. We're outside. We have kind of resigned ourselves to this fate. Okay, like one thing about Cardia is she, at the beginning, honestly, throughout a lot of the game, does not really have a regard for her own life. You know, she believes herself to be this monster and therefore doesn't really see the value in her own existence, doesn't believe she can have love, doesn't believe she can have friendship, any of these things. And actually, she does have a little bit of a past that kind of justifies those fears, but we'll get into that a little later as well. We're kind of resigned, we're kind of over it, when suddenly a beautiful man appears, okay? He comes out of the shadows. He's got this like Phantom of the Opera mask. He's got a cape. And it is none other than our son Lupin. Okay. Lupin he describes himself as a gentleman thief. Okay? So he's a bit of a Robin Hood figure, I would say. He is a criminal. He steals, but mostly he steals from like people who are bad or like super rich people. Like, he says he has a heart of justice, I believe. So, you know, he's doing it for good reasons. He's very charismatic. He's a flirt for sure. As you'll see, there are some other love interests who are more like intense flirts. Like Lupin's just kind of that like charisma. Like he seems kind of like he's dancing through life, you know, down at the Oz desk. Like he doesn't give anything too much thought. So he's here. He appears out of nowhere. I'm going to put him right next to us because he is our true love interest, right? He is here to steal us away. Lenhart hates Lupin because he's a criminal, and Lenhart is truly a man of justice and loyal to the British crown. They have like a whole fight, okay? Lupin is able to like throw smoke bombs out of his staff. Like he's very resourceful in that way. Oh, another thing about him is he's non-violent, which is very frustrating, but he's never going to kill anyone throughout the whole game, which like, is annoying. But just kidding. I don't advocate for violence. And he also can like mimic people's voices. I don't think that's ever explained, but he mimics Lenhart's voice, and he's like, guys, go that way. And so all the soldiers like run off, and he's able to run away with us. This is a great example of when he like picks us up in his arms. There's like a beautiful CG, and he like tears off into the night. Okay, so we're safe. Okay, we're finally free of the guards. We're with Lupin, and like I guess at this point we don't even know if we're safe. We don't even know who Lupin is, but we don't really care. Like he's handsome, and we don't care if we live or die. So fine with us. And we're telling him all this. He's like, oh my gosh, like you're pathetic. He doesn't say that, but like I'm sure that's what he's thinking in his mind. But he, you know, he's that suave gentleman, right? So he's like, I will grant you one wish. What is your heart's desire? Like, just tell me, and like I'll grant it. This is very important, obviously. This is gonna like come back in the end. So just remember this one. We of course say we want to touch him. We want to be able to touch. I mean, she says I want to touch you, Lupin, like not people in general, which like I respect a girl who knows what she wants. So that's our one wish, and Lupin's like, you know what? I'm gonna grant it. I promise. So then we immediately switch to daytime. Okay, we're still in the forest, camping out. The Royal Guard hasn't found us, and we're chatting it up with Lupin. I think he makes us some food, some breakfast, and here's where we get some important lore. So the number one important topic of interest is something called the horologium. Okay? So this is a jewel that is in Cartia's chest, like right here. They have this beautiful shot they show in like every scene when they talk about this, and it's like she has the most intense collarbones you've ever seen in your life. But anyway, it's this gem. This is basically, it's the source of her poison, for one thing. And Lupin also describes it as an infinite energy source. So it's this really powerful jewel, and it's just conveniently shaped like a beautiful heart, I guess. Like, that was thoughtful of the creator to make it look like that. So that's powering us. That's keeping us alive. That's our heart. Okay? But it's also obviously creating the poison. So that's not great. Next, we learn that Lupin, the reason that he has stolen us away is for his own gain. Obviously, he's not like a selfish. We're nothing to him right now. He is looking for Isaac Beckford. Okay? This isn't even worth showing you this one. They never show Isaac in the game. So I thought this just really captured his energy. So Isaac is our father. We're Cartia Beckford. We are his daughter. And Isaac, we just know that he's our father. We don't know much about him. So we ask Lupin for like to tell us more. And we soon learn that Isaac is like a genius. Okay, he has like revolutionized London. They call it Steel London now because it's all steampunk, and this is all thanks to Isaac. He invented this thing called the Neo-Steam engine, which, you know, sounds pretty cool. It's done some cool things, really revolutionized the technology. He's like a world-renowned scientist. Everybody knows who this guy is. He's currently missing. Okay, so nobody knows where he is. We think he's dead, basically, is the rumor. And Lupin is looking for him. He's looking for Isaac, and particularly information about him, which he thought that his firstborn child, like, maybe would know some things about her father, but unfortunately, like, we have no memory. We don't know anything, so we can't help him. Which, like, I'd be annoyed about. Lupin seems pretty, like, whatever. We ultimately decide we want to learn information about our father, too. Right? Like, we don't know anything about it. We can't go back to his house and just, like, sit there for all of our days, so we decide to stay with Lupin. You know, we have a common goal, common interest, like, let's work together and find Isaac. Suddenly, an automobile pulls up. Okay, this is an important thing. Steampunk Steel London. We have automobiles, we have airships, we have trains, we have a whole lot of technology that was not actually there. The car pulls up, it's like broken down, it's like emitting smoke, and this guy's like bumbling around in there, and then he gets out, and it's none other than Impy Barbicane. Oh, look at him. So Impy is a genius engineer by his own words, and my own words as well. He is my favorite love interest in the game, if you haven't already deduced that one. And he is working with Lupin. Impy's main thing is he really wants to go to the moon. Okay, and I learned the other day that Impy Barbicane is actually a character from a Jules Verne, because they're also supposed to be literary characters, and Impy's from a Jules Verne novel called From the Earth to the Moon. So I think like the guy in the book does go to the moon, which like I guess is the inspiration for Impy. Impy's goal, he really wants to go to the moon. There's a whole backstory on that. We'll get into that. He's looking for something that he needs to get him to the moon. We don't know what that is yet, but Lupin is going to help him find that in return for Impy helping Lupin with his goal. So everybody's kind of looking for the same thing. We're all on the same track here. And Impy, sweet thing about him is that also he's the tallest. That's the sweet thing about him. But another sweet thing about him is that just from the start, he is enamored with us. Okay, like he's so flirtatious, and some people probably won't like it because he's like very overly flirtatious and he's the comic relief, but like I like that, and you will too if you give him a chance. But he, right off the bat, telling us how beautiful we are, jealous of Lupin that he gets to hang out with us. You know, he's just like, he's a charmer, and we are like not interested, which actually annoyed me, but that's okay. We can't always agree, me and Cardia. Yeah, so we talk with Impy. I think like Lupin goes off at one point to scout something, so we have like a little conversation, but it's not no important lore dropped. He's mostly just like flirting with us, which I liked. So then the three of us, we get in the car and we head to Steel London. Okay, famous steampunk city. Everyone is very excited. Hi, I'm just coming in to add that Lupin has told us that his headquarters are in Steel London, which is why we're now going there. So basically him and Impy have been staying at this really nice mansion in the city, and that's where we're going back to. Some point before we enter the city, we get some more lore. Number one, we learn about Twilight. Twilight is a secret branch of the government, okay, who was founded by Isaac. So Isaac, you'll soon come to see, basically runs this world and has created anything of any interest and value. You can just assume that it was made by Isaac, okay? So Twilight was made by Isaac. They're really like undercover. Nobody really knows much about them. The soldiers, I didn't print out a photo, but they have like plague doctor masks. Like they're really menacing looking. But apparently they're plotting a terrorist attack, which somehow uses the horologium. Okay, so that's why they needed us. That is why Lupin is looking for Isaac. Okay, he wants to stop the terrorist attack. He wants to stop Twilight. So that's what we're going to be working towards as well. We're stopping Twilight. Twilight is bad and evil and wants the horologium. Got it? Good. We then see another important thing. We see a wanted poster. Okay, this poster is for Victor Frankenstein. I don't know if you've heard that name before, but he has apparently like bombed a factory. If you just look at the poster and look at that guy's face, like you can tell that guy's never had a malicious intent in his life. Like he seems like the nicest man around, but these people lack some like critical thinking sometimes. Then we have a choice. We can pick Impy or Lupin. You can pretty much only pick Impy unless you're on Lupin's route. And fun fact about Lupin's route is you have to complete all the 4 other routes before you can go on his. So kind of in for the long haul on that one. We go with Impy. There's a fun little scene where we like pretend to be his wife and we like confuse the guards. It's really cute. And we are able to kind of make a run for it and enter Steel London. So we make our way to Lower Town. Lower Town is where all the poor people live. It's where all the crime is. We're told all the time like how terrible it is there, how like unsafe it is, right? It's really funny because they're just talking about how unsafe it is, and then suddenly like we lose Impy. We've never like there's no explanation for that. I guess Impy just like forgot about us and we got separated. We're like wandering around Lower Town and we're like the stupidest person alive, right? Because we've been just sitting in a house for 2 years, like we don't know anything. This nice man comes up to us and he's like, hey, like are you looking for someone? And we're like, yeah, Impy, like have you seen him? He's like, beautiful man, tall, ginger, engineer. And the guy's like, yeah, oh my gosh, like that's so funny because I just saw him like come this way. So we follow him into this alley. Like of course Impy's in the alley, like why wouldn't he be? And of course, like the freak like tries to attack us, and when he touches us, his hand gets melted off. Okay, he got what was coming to him, but this just makes him like even more mad, and then he starts to go crazy, and he's like attacking us. Suddenly, someone comes to our rescue, none other than wanted criminal Victor Frankenstein. Look at that charming smile, the face of a wanted criminal, if I ever did see one. Victor is how to describe Victor. I believe before I said he was a nerd, that's about number one thing I would say. But I do have a soft spot for Victor. I prefer him as a friend to the love interest, but I could see how you could like him. And I won't say anything bad about it. I'll have a kind heart for the purposes of this video. When I was printing out these photos, I found like their full body sprites, and like you normally never see that. And the like ridiculous shoes these people have on, you need to look it up, because Victor's boots, like I almost included his whole body in this just so you could see them. But moving forward. So Victor was a former alchemist for the Royal Society. Okay, that's like where all the famous scientists are. And Isaac was a part of it, as he is in everything. Victor was one of the best. He was a really smart guy. But due to some unknown reason, he was blamed for these attacks. Okay, but he tells us, he's like, I'm innocent. I never did that. I would never bomb a factory. Like, that's crazy. And we don't divulge too much of his past just yet. We'll get into it later. But as for now, we just know he's a criminal. He is really good at like making potions and stuff. He made like a smoke bomb to get us out of the alley. We have to run away from some people tailing him, but ultimately we end up safe in like the middle class part of town. We tell him about our poison, as we will have to do for every character in this game. And he's like, oh, that's so interesting. Like, I'm sure I could help you. You know, I'm like a science genius. Like, I'm sure if I put my mind to it, I could help you out. And we're like, I don't know. Like, you're wanted. I think you can choose to be skeptical or not. I chose to be skeptical. He offers his help to us, and then we're like, oh, like, well, we gotta, like, how can we help you? And basically Victor, you know, he's on the run right now. He has nowhere to go. And so he's like, well, let me go with you. Let me go with you to regroup at Lupin's mansion. And maybe I can stay there in return for trying to help you get rid of your poison. Okay? Pretty convenient, little business deal there. So he's able to help us, and we are able to regroup at the mansion. Now, this mansion is very beautiful. It's very clearly owned by a rich man, okay? It's very expensive looking. We go in with Victor. Right away, we're like jumped by Lupin and Impy, who I guess Impy just went home and like didn't bother looking for us, but okay. They like try to attack Victor, but we're like, no, like he's innocent, and we explain everything, and then everyone's just, we're all fine with staying together and letting Victor live at our house. So now we're up to a group of 3 men, okay? So Lupin shows us to our room. We get our own room. It's very nice. We also encounter Cece. Cece is just a darling little dog with a robotic leg. I'm like not a dog person, and so I never am super into the animal sidekick they give the MC, but Cece was fine. I like the Elizabeth musical, German musical. That's a deep cut, but so I was excited to see the name Cece. Cece, he was a dog. He was like a stray, rescued with Impy, rescued by Impy, and he had like this mangled leg, so Impy fixed him up. But it's really sad because Cece like hates Impy. Like, story of Impy's life, like this guy cannot catch a break. So Cece's in our room, and like Lupin's like a little scared. We're definitely scared because the last time we saw a dog, we melted its face off. So we're a little bit like, oh. But Cece's really sweet. He loves us immediately. Like, of course, like everyone loves us. And so we're like, we'll take care of Cece. That can be like one of our rules in the house. Cece likes Victor. I'll put him up here. Lupin leaves us. We like head to bed, but we can't sleep because our sheets and stuff, they haven't been poison proofed. One thing about us is everything that we encounter needs to be poison proofed. Our clothes, this beautiful outfit, by the way, I'm so sad I had to cut off her, but she's like a stunning skirt. And it was all crafted by Isaac to be able to withstand her poison. And these sheets, they're not able to withstand her poison. So, like, we can't turn our head, and we're a side sleeper. So we're like, fuck, like, this isn't gonna work. So we can't sleep the whole night until we get poison-proof sheets. So we're just, like, sitting there, and then finally we're like, okay. We start wandering around the halls. We see something a little weird. We see like a shadow of a suit of armor walking through the hall. Remember that one, okay? Remember that for later. But we immediately kind of duck into the library. We're like, whoa, that was weird. And we're in this like beautiful room with all these books. And suddenly someone talks to us. We're like, whoa, we did not see you there. And who is it? With the beautiful Count Saint Germain. Oh, I'm a Saint Germain girl. I know he's kind of controversial. I know a lot of people don't really like his route. Maybe not a lot of people. I've just seen a few things online, but I do. And my opinion is the most important in this world. Oh, he needs to be closer. Chronologium is keeping them apart. This is a good metaphor for the plot of the game. He is a rich count from France, okay? And he owns this mansion. He is sort of like very mysterious, I would say, is his defining trait. Very ethereal. He's clearly, you can tell right off the bat, like something's different with this guy. He's not like a regular Joe off the street like Victor. Just kidding. I love you, Victor. There's something inhuman about him. Like, I'll just say, I feel like you can pick that up pretty fast. And he doesn't, like, he has a very fake smile. We are able to see that right away. Like, there's something going on behind this mask that he wears. But he's very nice, and he's, like, a little cryptic, and we tell him about the suit of armor that we just saw. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, there's nobody in this house who wears a suit of armor. And we're like, oh, okay, like, maybe we just missed it. And he was like, yeah, probably. So, right off the bat, like, he obviously knows this person with the suit of armor. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, he welcomes us to his home. And basically his motivation, so everyone here, you know, has their own goal and their own reason for looking for Isaac. Saint Germain just, like, doesn't at this point. What we know of him is that he's just, like, a silly rich guy who, like, wants entertainment. Not entertainment, but he is kind of just here along for the ride. And so he was like, yeah, Lupin and Impy, like, you can stay in my house as long as you, like, entertain me. Like, he's born, he lives alone, okay? And so he was like, yeah, come on in. So he's really happy that they're all there. And now we are up to a group of 4 men. Where's the 5th man, you ask? That's a good question. And that brings us in to chapter 2. Okay, so I had to put my hair back for chapter 2 because we're getting into some serious stuff now. Okay, we open with Victor doing a little exam on us, okay? Victor is no doctor, but I guess he's just kind of appointed himself to be our, like, little physician, because he's always, like, doing tests, you know. He's trying to get rid of our poison, actually, so I guess that's pretty normal. I shouldn't hate on him. Victor is, like, testing different types of metal to see, like, when we touch it, and, like, to see, like, if it'll melt, right? So he gives us titanium, like, which I guess is, like, the strongest metal in Steel London, and we're able to melt it easily. Nothing is any match for our poison. Sadly, we're really discouraged by this, but I guess this is helpful because it lets him know that the horologium basically contains a ton of energy. So it's a very powerful and dangerous object, which I guess is good to know. And also, he knows that the poison is only contained by her own body. So the only thing that is not going to be burned up by this is her body for some reason. We don't know why. And Lupin is there during this exam. I'll just play the Sorry, it's a Freudian slip. Lupin is there for some reason. He's just always hanging around because he loves us. But he asks Victor if he can make us new clothes, which is kind of sad because this outfit is, like, beautiful and iconic, but, you know, we do attract a lot of attention in our beautiful dress, so Lupin's like, we need something different there. We can't have that. And also, some poison-proofed bed sheets, because, like, we could not sleep last night. Like, it was a disaster. And Victor, of course, will do anything for us. He was like, yeah, totally. So that's all cleared up. We're about to get a new makeover. Then we go down for breakfast, okay, and Saint Germain prays before every meal. And Impy is actually the chef of the house, so he made the breakfast, and it's incredible. Impy can do it all. Genius mind, and genius chef, and beautiful man. Like, what can he do, is the question. And at breakfast, all the men kind of disclose their motives for being there. So I've touched on this a little bit in the past. It is hard to recap this because I know so much, and I'm trying to think, like, what do we know at this moment? So apologies if I've jumped ahead of myself here. Basically, I'll recap everyone's motives. They're kind of important for their own routes. Lupin wants to stop the terrorists, wants to stop Twilight, which was founded by Isaac. That's the connection to Isaac. Victor, on the run. He, for some reason, fled the royal, when he was an alchemist, he fled the Royal Society. He won't tell us why. We don't know why he did that. But what we do know is that he's now being accused of the bombing, and, like, he's being framed for it because the government doesn't want him to leave the country and tell anybody else about this scientific knowledge that he has. So basically, something happened while he was at the Royal Society where he now has this knowledge that the Queen and the Royal Guard does not want getting out of Britain. But we don't know what. He's being very tight-lipped about it. And B wants to go to the moon. Somebody stole something that belonged to him, that he created, and he thought Lupin did, which is why he like followed Lupin a long time ago, and like they tussled, whatever, and then ultimately decided to work together. So he's still on the hunt for that. Saint Germain wants to have fun, like I said before, he doesn't care. Or so we think at this point. Cece is just there for fun as well. Yeah, so then Lupin is like, I'm gonna take you to see a doctor. And, you know, bless his heart, like, I don't really know why he thought this would work, but I respect his priorities. So we all go. Actually, Saint Germain doesn't go, because he doesn't trouble himself. Like, why should he? We all go down to the poor town, lower town, and we go to see a doctor. She's, like, the best doctor, apparently, who, like, helps people for, like, reasonable prices. Like, she's really good. She's great. So she sees us in. We're really excited. We're like, oh my gosh, like, we're about to be cured. Like, thank you. I was really excited playing. I was like, finally. No. The doctor calls everybody back in. She's like, this girl, beyond help. Because apparently, come to find out, we have no heartbeat. Okay? There's no pulse. There's no heart in there. So everyone's like, whoa. And Victor's like, oh yeah, actually I knew that the whole time. I knew that from the first exam. I just didn't want to tell you, Cardia, because I thought like maybe like it'd be kind of odd, like maybe it would scare you, so I like didn't want to tell you. And we're like, okay, thank you, Victor. So basically we have no heart, but this does reveal more to us about the horologium. Basically that it is our heart, and it is our life force, okay? So if anything ever happens to this, like we're gonna die. So that's very important, okay? This is key to keeping us alive. Oh, we're really sad, obviously, after that failure. And Lupin is like, okay, why don't we go do something fun? Like, let's go blow off some steam. We all need it, I think. And everyone's like, yeah, sounds great. So we head off to these fairgrounds. These are apparently run by some, like, criminal organization, and it's a bunch of gambling. But it brings in a lot of money to the city or something, and so the Scotland Yard, the police, like, doesn't, like, turns a blind eye to it, basically. But it's also like a fairground, like, it's a fun place. So we're excited, and we can choose to go with Victor, Impy, or Lupin. Lupin, of course, you can only choose to go with him on his route, so won't be able to do that immediately. But if you go with Victor, you have like a cute thing with like cotton candy, and we like eat all the cotton candy because we're silly like that. If you go with Lupin, you win a bunch of money because he's really good at gambling, and then you like get thrown out. And then if you go with Impy, there's this cute thing where he like hacks into one of the machines, the slot machines, to like impress us, and with one of his inventions, but like ultimately he gets caught and gets carted away by the authorities. He like comes back right after. So we had our cute little moment, and we're kind of like throughout this story, we're getting flashbacks to this traumatic event that happened in our past. So you'll get like a black and white screen and like a line of like villager, like, you're a monster, and it like really like we're really scarred by whatever this moment was. We don't really know at this point in time. So we have another one of those, and we're like kind of like in our feelings until suddenly there is a huge commotion outside. Okay, we're like, whoa, we hear gunfire. We're like, what is going on? Lupin like shields us like from a blast. It's very intense. We go out there, and who do we see? Who do we see? Make one guess. That's right. Abraham Van Helsing, a short king, enters the scene. He is shooting around. He recognizes Lupin, and he is just like being crazy, okay? And he right away is like to Lupin, he's like, babe, hand over the monster. I know that you have it. I know that you stole it from the Royal Guard. Funheart, remember him? I need it. I need it, and I'm gonna get it. And Van Helsing, he gets what he wants. Like, that's one thing about him. Lupin's like, no, like in your dreams. And then, so there's this huge battle, right? We're shooting. There's this beautiful CG of Van Helsing with, like, the British flag. Like, it's just stunning. We run away from him. We get into the forest. We're like, okay, that was, like, we were all pretty fast. Like, I don't think there's any way he's gonna catch up. He does catch up. He's, like, just threatening us, you know. He's being very aggressive. And Impy, of course, like being the gentleman that he is, like stands up to fight. So he's like, he does some like superhuman, like run up a tree and like kicks Van Helsing, and Van Helsing ends up shooting him. But one thing about Van Helsing is like a lot of the time it's not lethal bullets, it's like rock salt bullets that he shoots. A lot of these people, this is a vast difference from Pio Fiore, where they were like shooting up people every second, like stabbing people, like death was a daily occurrence. Here they're very non-violent, which is good sometimes. Impy gets taken out by one of these shots. We're like, oh my gosh, like we're really scared. But Lupin's like, we're leaving him. Okay, like that's rude, but whatever. We leave and we run further into the forest. And of course, Van Helsing catches up with us, but not to worry because Impy catches up with us as well. And it's just a side thing, but we kind of remark like that blast would have knocked out like a full-grown man for a long time. So just keep that in mind that Impy has just done kind of like a little bit of a superhuman kind of attack. Like it's almost like he's not a human. Like let me plant that one in there for you. And we have this discussion with Van Helsing. Victor recognizes him, and we kind of learn some more about Van Helsing. Basically, he is known as the human weapon, okay? He's like this incredible fighter, world-renowned, and he has been recognized by the Queen. I don't like this reflection. To see his beautiful eyes. He has been recognized by the Queen. I don't know if he's been knighted. He has received some kind of honor for his work in the Vampire War. I'm trying to think what we know of the Vampire War at this point. Basically, it was this big battle against like Britain and the vampires, and Van Helsing killed a bunch of vampires and like saved the day. That's what we know right now. That may not be the full story, if you can imagine. And Van Helsing is basically like, look, you have the Horologium, and I need it. So just give it to me right now, and like then you guys can go on your way. Like everything's fine. And we're like, actually, like, we can't do that because we just learned that if anything happens to this, like, we're gonna die. So we can't, sorry. And Helsing's like, okay, that's fine, like, you can just come with me. Everybody else is, of course, like, no, we're not doing that. Oh, then it's revealed that we are Isaac's daughter, of course, and Van Helsing is like, wait, then, like, I actually don't even care. I just want to know about Isaac, too. So, like, you can also come with me to do that. So Van Helsing is looking for Isaac, I guess. He wants to know secrets about Isaac, don't we all? And he thinks that he can use us to lure out Isaac. He's like being very aggressive still. He's like, I'm gonna take her, like I'm gonna torture the information out of her because we're like, we don't remember anything about Isaac. Like clearly, like, we just told Lupin that 2 days ago. But Victor, being the pacifist he is, has this genius plan that Van should just collaborate with them. And they should all just go back to the house and live in peace and work on their shared goal of finding Isaac. Of course, Van is like very like, it takes him like a long time. Lupin has to pull out this like special attack in order to convince him, but ultimately he's like, okay, I guess I'll come back with you guys. And so now we have a full harem with us at the house. And that brings us to chapter 3. Okay, chapter 3 is a pretty short one. It's mostly gearing up for chapter 4, which is kind of a big one. So get excited for that. We start at breakfast. Head chef Impy cooks for us, and of course it's amazing, as always. He's brilliant. And this time now, obviously Van Helsing is at the table, and Impy and Van Helsing they all have banter with each other. A lot of it is against Impy, but Van Helsing in particular just like hates Impy, and so there's a lot of like them clashing, and it's kind of funny because Van Helsing is like, he really wants to learn how to cook. He's a terrible cook, which is pretty cute. He's like, oh, like this breakfast is amazing, like my compliments to the chef. And Impy's like, thanks. And he's like, no, like to the chef. And then Saint Germain obviously wasn't there for the whole Van Helsing thing, so he gets a rundown, and Van Helsing tells him basically, he kind of reveals that it's actually not Isaac he wants to lure out. It's somebody else. There's this other guy. He hasn't given this individual a name. We don't know who it is, but it's somebody else who Van Helsing believes to be immortal. So apparently this guy has been assassinated before and came back to life. And so this immortal guy, also is after the Horologium. Van Helsing knows this, I guess. And so he He hoped to lure that guy out with the Horologium. But instead, he's just going to learn as much about Isaac and the Horologium as possible in order to achieve this same goal and to find this man as well. Victor tells us that we cannot stay inside too long or our poison is going to build up. And the particles, I guess we release like poison particles into the air and they like build up. So if we stay inside for a long period of time, they're going to like coalesce into like an amount that can be detected. So I didn't mention this at the beginning, but the way Lenhart found us in the first place was he had a detector that would like beep when he got close to us. And apparently we now know that detects like the poison concentration in the air, which is why it detected us in the house because we never left that house for like 2 years. The solution to that is that we need to go outside for a little bit each day, and we're going to get training from our circle of incredible teachers here. For the training session, you can pick. Again, you can't pick Lupin at first, but you can eventually, and they all teach you different things. I'm not going to go into the specifics. I recommend you play it yourself and see. But basically, Saint Germain teaches you about like London geography. He like takes you out onto the streets, shows you the Tower Bridge, a gentleman. Van Helsing teaches you how to fight. I really love Van Helsing's training. Like it kind of shows you a different side of him because up till now all you just see is he's super aggressive and mean, but he kind of, that mask slips a little bit in the training and he teaches you how to like shoulder check people and stuff. And he teaches you how to drive a car in the first one. He has like a little workshop outside the mansion where he builds stuff. And in the second one, this is a little bit important, you go up in the sky in an invention called the ornithopter. I don't know how to pronounce it. Ornithopter. I'm going to go with that. It's like a little helicopter. It looks kind of like a dragonfly. And you might think that this is like a fun side thing, but no. You'll see the ornithopter again. And actually, anytime you're in some kind of inconvenient situation, don't even worry because that ornithopter is about 2 seconds away from swooping in, okay? So it's kind of like its own character. Honestly, I should have printed it out, but you know. And Victor teaches you about poisons. It's pretty uneventful. No, I'm just kidding. I need to actually be more impartial. Victor teaches you about like using poisons in battle. That's what he do, or not poisons, chemicals in battle. That's what he does all the time. Like ones that like flash light and like smoke is his big thing. He's also nonviolent. And then Lupin teaches you thievery skills. So I think one time you play tag, which is really cute actually. There's 2 training sessions in the chapter and you can choose who you want for each. Victor reveals our new fit that he has crafted. It is poison proofed. He's figured out how to do it, so he makes us new silverware, new sheets, anything we could ever dream of. We try it on. It's like a really cute moment. We impress everyone. This big fashion show. It's like fine. It's a fine outfit. It's like pants and a blouse, and then this like really interesting cylindrical hat she always has on every time she goes outside. I was a hater of the hat, like I'll be honest, but there's some cute moments with it and some of the CGs, so I actually have changed my mind about that. But I should have printed that out, but just imagine it. It's really not too different. But everyone's really impressed and really thinks you're really cute, which you are. We go to dinner, it's some meal, and we like smile, we laugh at someone's joke, and everyone thinks it's just like the best thing they've ever seen. They're like, let's declare it a national holiday. Those are like actually words they use because we never smile and we're starting to like have emotions now, which is beautiful. And then at the end of the meal, Lupin is like, guys, it's time to act. Like it's time. We've done enough sitting around in this house doing nothing. And it's time to make our first move towards finding Isaac. And that is the main thing that happens in chapter 4. Okay, so this chapter is very dense, but I will do my best. Lupin has just told us it's time to act. And his idea of acting is to capture the head of Twilight. Now, rightfully so, everyone is like, that's insane. Like, that's a crazy first move for us to be making. But Lupin has concocted this grand plan. basically he took out some Twilight soldier and like dressed up in their uniform and went in there and like chatted with all the guys. And they basically told him that the leader is going to be on a train. Now, this train is going to depart from Waterloo Station, and it is going to, I think, inspect some kind of military facility. Either way, it's going to have the leader of Twilight on it, so it's like a big deal. And this is like a golden opportunity for them to snatch this guy up. And basically, the thought process there is that this guy definitely has some information on Isaac and is going to just help everyone get to their shared goals a lot quicker. It's a good first step, basically. So here comes the part where I explain the plan of this heist. And I myself don't fully understand this plan. It's a bit beyond my capabilities. I'm no Lupin, clearly, but I'll do my best to kind of make sense of it. Basically, they're splitting up into two groups, okay? Group number 1, Van Helsing, Victor. This group is going to be inside the train. They're going to board it at the station. They're going to go all the way to the last car. Once the leader of Twilight gets on the train, they're going to kick all the other passengers off. I guess that's like the end of the line for the passengers or something. And so then at that point, these two are going to cause this huge distraction in the last car, and that's going to draw all the Twilight guards that are guarding this leader. They're all going to come back to the back car, and they're going to tussle with Victor and Van Helsing. Then someone, I think Cardia, is going to uncouple the back car, or they're going to do it themselves. Somehow the back car is going to get uncoupled, and it's going to take these two and all the guards away so that they don't have to deal with the guards anymore. I think that's a pretty good idea, honestly. So then the other group, Impy, Lupin, SG, they are not going on the train, at first at least. This is where like I kind of lose the plot here, but bear with me. They're going to first isolate the car with the leader. Then they're going to switch the track, and that car is going to go on the switch track away from the rest of the train. They're uncoupling another car. That's where it gets confusing. They uncoupled the back car, and now they're uncoupling another car with the leader in it. That car is going to go all the way to the end of the switch track. SG is going to be waiting at the end of the track with a car. Everybody's going to get in the car and get away. He's the getaway driver, okay? They need to make this happen, obviously. It's not going to happen on its own. And Van and Victor are, like, gone in the back car. So Lupin and Impy are going to take the ornithopter, my favorite thing. I told you to come back. They're going to fly in on top of the train, I think is the plan. And they are going to cut off the train car, uncouple it, and they are going to switch the track. So they're just doing that all themselves. Somehow on top of it, Impy made some magic invention. A lot of answers in this game are like, Impy made a magic invention. That will do it. So that is the case in this one. Basically, to sum up the plan, stealing the train car, we're completely stealing the whole car with the leader, capturing the leader in the car, taking him back to the mansion. Everybody has their own rules. So everyone's preparing for this big plan. Everyone's stressed. We're like sitting in our room and we can check on our love interest of choice. There's like a little moment with them. It's like not really plot effective. So I won't go into it. And then the day is here, the day of the heist. We all arrive at the station. It's like golden hour. Definitely good vibes for a train heist, I would say. Something to note, we have never seen a train before because we've never seen anything before because we've lived in a house for 2 years. And so we're like stunned by this train. It's like a steel monster or something they call it, like steel beast. Like it's very impressive. And B like loves the train as well because he's a man of science. He says it's run by the Neo steam engine. It has a regular engine and a Neo steam engine. And so isn't that so interesting that Isaac has also helped to create the train? He really has he's done it all. Like he's really a Renaissance man. We're waiting at the station. Lupin's like monologuing, telling us, hyping us up for this big plan. Right off the bat, some guy like bumps into Lupin, like really like they make it a big thing. Like Lupin's like, oh look, I'm losing my touch. Like who's this guy who just bumped into me? And we're like, no, no, like don't worry about it. Like don't say that, Lupin. Like that's a bad like omen for our trip. So we don't know for now who bumped into Lupin. Keep that in your mind, okay? That's another thing to remember. So at this point, we get to pick which group we want to be a part of, okay? Do we want to go inside with Victor? Oh my gosh, with Victor and Van, or with these three clowns outside of the train? It's pretty much the same, regardless. It doesn't affect much. If you go with these two, you just fight with them on the train. If you go with these three, you're by the car. You're waiting it out. Suddenly, you guys notice the wind is super strong. The ornithopter cannot really fly super well when the wind is really strong, so it's kind of a stressful time, obviously. And so SG, he's not going. Like, he's waiting in the car. That was made very clear that that was his role, so that's fine. You, Lupin, and Impy are all going in the ornithopter to the car, to the train, to uncouple it, and switch the track. You guys get in there. It's a little cramped. It's made for 2 people, not 3. There's like some cute banner about that. The wind is going crazy, okay? Impy cannot really control this thing. He's like, Lupin and Cardia, you guys gotta get out of here. Jump onto the train. You guys take it from here because somebody has to pilot this thing. Like, the weather is crazy. So we end up jumping out with Lupin and we jump on top of the train. And he's like, okay, we gotta get in there. So we like we enter the car. And there's a soldier. We take out a soldier. We like smack him, using our techniques from Van Helsing, because we learned we were a good student. Suddenly, I always say suddenly before one of these people comes in, because that's literally like exactly how it goes. There's always some crazy event and like a new important character comes up. Suddenly, there's a man hiding under one of the seats, and he comes out, and he's none other than this dapper gentleman, Sherlock Holmes. Yes, that's correct. No relation to Sherlock Holmes, of course. I don't know why you would even think that. They're completely different characters, okay? No resemblance whatsoever. They are both private detectives, but don't take that to mean that they're the same, because they're assuredly not, okay? I'm going to put him with Lupin because they're best friends. Oh, also he's best friends with Van, so everyone's together. So Sholmes is the one who bumped into Lupin at the train station. Surprise! I told you that would come back, and it did. This guy is a private detective, like I mentioned before. He is very loyal to the law. He knows that Lupin is a criminal. He heard Lupin talking at full volume about the plan back at the station, so like everyone and their mother could hear. So of course, he was like, I'm not going to let this happen. It's very much against the law. And, you know, Twilight, they're sus, but they are associated with the government. So they're the law at this point. So Sholmes has boarded the train in order to put a stop to this, particularly put a stop to Lupin. So he's like, Lupin, you're under arrest. And Lupin's like laughing, like, no. And tries to knock him out with this, like, one of Victor's chemicals that like comes out of his staff. And Sholmes, like, because he's so smart and he can deduce things before they even happen, has already like covered his mouth with a handkerchief, like soaked in some kind of like, not antidote, but like reagent, like something that like counteracts the poison. So Sholmes is fine. And actually this was really cute. Sholmes starts like monologuing about that whole thing, like how he deduced that and everything. And we make a run for it, which I think was cute. And he's like, oh, running while I'm talking, like kind of rude. We end up tripping over a string that Sholmes set up. Like, what a juvenile trap. Like, how could a gentleman thief fall for such a thing? Honestly, like, kind of embarrassing. And we, like, pull out our poison. We're like, oh my gosh, like, we're gonna put a stop to this. And Lupin is like, no. Okay, like, I will fight this guy. You need to go disconnect the train. Like, we gotta keep the plan moving. We can't let this guy, like, derail it, okay? So we make a run. We jump. Somehow we get to the roof of the train car. We're, like, crazy. And we're, like, trying to disconnect it. We're, like, getting out our gadget. It's not working. Like, something's going on. Something's wrong. This isn't the right train car. Like, something's off here. No, I gotta say something other than suddenly. All of a sudden, we feel a gun against our head, okay? We stop. We don't disconnect the car. Who is it but an ancient, ugly, gnarly, nasty-looking man? Jimmy A. Allister. I mean, this man You don't think he's going to be important, and then he becomes crazy important. He's important to Van, super important to Van's story. Comes up in Lupin's. I guess only those two. Then he's super critical to Sholmes as well. So remember this guy, okay? Even though he seems like a random old guy, he's actually has an importance. I'm gonna put him there because I hate him. Alistair takes us down off the roof. He's like holding a gun to our head, and we enter the car. There's tons of soldiers in there, Twilight soldiers with the plague doctor mask, and we can't fight all those soldiers. Like, we're pretty strong, but we're not strong enough to do that. So we just go along with what he says. Then he's like monologuing, he's chatting with us, like making jokes. Like, it's not funny. Like, it's not. And someone is like, can you shut up, Alistair? Like, shut your trap. And we're like, what? Like, who is this? Who is it but a young boy? Just look at this guy. Look, wait, we kind of have the same eye color. So this little man in his Halloween ensemble, I think his outfit is hilarious. Like, I really, hats off to whoever designed it. You really knocked it out of the park with that one. So this man is Phineas, and he is the leader of Twilight. Yep, that's right. This little baby-faced man, this little 5-year-old, he is in charge of the whole organization. And Alistair is like his right-hand man, okay? So a little bit of a interesting dynamic there that the old guy is reporting to this like 5-year-old. And right away at Phineas, he addresses us as sister. Okay, interesting. We have never met this man. Sorry to this man, I've never seen him in my life, but apparently he is our brother. And we're like, please elaborate. Please elaborate. And he tells us that we have the same father. We are both children of Isaac. And I guess we just have to take his word for it, like we do for everything else, because we don't really know anything. We have amnesia. So, like, for all we know, he's telling the truth. He knows our name. He knows a lot about us. And he kind of is like, I can answer all of your questions. I can answer to the truth of the horologium, to the poison, to why everyone's looking for you. Like, I can answer that for you. And we're like a little bit intrigued by that. Then he tells us that this is actually his trap. So while Lupin was making this huge convoluted plan and thought he was like the biggest genius in the world, the whole time it was actually Phineas, who had leaked the information that he was going to be on this train. Lupin ate it up, fell right into the trap, and now the whole goal was to get us. He wants to capture us and our horologium. So as he's monologuing, these two, kings of monologues, okay? Constant yapping about things that get a little confusing. But anyway, he's just talking about how us and him are here to fulfill the dreams of Isaac, and we like are responsible for like carrying out his legacy, all these grand things. We don't know what he's talking about. Like, okay, Van comes in, okay, Van Helsing, and he freaks. He loses it when he sees this little boy. We're like, what's going on? Like, he's always aggro, but like right now he's really losing it. And he's holding the gun to Phineas, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. Like, he's really like distressed. And Phineas is like taunting him almost. He's like, no, you're not gonna kill me. You're not gonna kill me. Like, you don't have it in you. And like, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Like, shoot me wherever. Like, I don't care. And I always, he just has the whiniest like voice. Like, you just know this kid is the most annoying like little brat in the world. So basically what we get from this is that Phineas is this mystery man that Van was talking about, okay? The guy after the horologium, the immortal guy who's been shot before. It's our brother, Phineas. So that explains who Van was looking for. But he also seems to be good pals with Alistair. Alistair's like, whoa, man, like, chill. And Van's like, stay out of this, Alistair. Like, you don't understand. And we're like, oh, how interesting. Like, they know each other. There's some past there. And we also know, I think this was mentioned in an earlier chapter and I skipped over it, but just an important note is that Van was a member of Twilight in his past. We do know that. So prior to the Vampire War, during the Vampire War, all of that, Van was in Twilight. He's not anymore, but he used to be. So that must explain how he knows these two fools. So it's looking dire, honestly. Van can't shoot Phineas. Phineas is taunting him. We're still being like held at gunpoint. There's so many soldiers. It's looking really dark when suddenly Fireworks start going off everywhere. Red, green colors. What is going on? Who jumps through the window? Glass shattered. But Lupin. He is somehow holding on. This is another classic move that you will see again. He's holding on to the ladder that's coming out of the ornithopter. And he's like hanging on. And there was like harsh wind. So he's like thrashing around. And he's like, Cardia jumped. Like, I'm going to save you. We'll do whatever Lupin says, right? We don't care. So we decide Van Helsing helps us. I think he like shoots somewhere that maybe shoots open the window. I forget, but he helps us escape. And we just jump out. Lupin catches us. Beautiful CG of us like looking mournfully into the train. Phineas like tries to grab us, but we're already out. We're gone. And Impy is driving the ornithopter. He reels us up. And it's just this grand escape. And I guess we just abandoned these two in there. But, they're resourceful. Hopefully they find their way out. I sure hope so. But yeah, we escape. And as we do so, we look down through the window and Phineas is like laughing. Like, I don't know what's funny about this to you, but this guy's chuckling away. And also, our horologium begins to like really hurt. It's like burning. And so that is a little something to also keep in your mind. Something that you'll see in this game often is that when we come into contact with Phineas, we start feeling pain, okay? And we're going to figure out why that is. And that brings us to chapter 5. Hello, I'm back. I actually recorded all of this last night and then somehow photo booth glitched and it was lost to time. So just new outfit, pretend I still have the good hair from last night, but we're just gonna make do. So chapter 6 begins. We're all at breakfast and we're discussing last night's train heist, okay? And we're really discouraged, right? Like that was kind of a flop. But Lupin, Impy, they're trying to remain optimistic. They're like, okay, like maybe we didn't get Phineas, but we did get some information, we learned a little bit about him, that's better than nothing, I guess, right? So then Victor decides to bring up the fact that we are completely broke. Unbeknownst to us, Victor's been in charge of managing all the finances, and he has not done a good job because Impy's been having to build all these inventions, like slaving away for us. So of course he's had to spend some money. Van has just been buying bullets left and right. Like, Victor has actually spent the most money of all on his research. So really, if we need someone to blame, I think collectively we can all just blame Victor. So, currently the most important goal is going to be to get more money. That's priority number 1, because without money, we can't really continue our investigation. We can't go on any more failed train heists. Okay, that's priority number 1. So Van Helsing's looking through the paper. He's trying to find some work, and he comes across this ad, okay? And it's been put out by something called the London Firm. Now, I didn't mention this name before, but the London Firm is the same criminal group that runs the fairgrounds that we went to earlier with Lupin, Victor, and Impy, if you recall. Now, this group is currently holding an auction. Okay, they're going to be auctioning a lot of rare items to some rich people. And they have caught wind of a rumor that a thief is going to be infiltrating the gathering, okay, particularly with his eyes set on one precious object called the Nosferatu saber. Now, this is actually not a saber, it's a pendant, but either way, that is what the thief is going to target. Van Helsing's kind of looking at this paper, looking at this picture of the saber, and he's like just kind of brooding over it. Van Helsing and his brooding. And we're like, hey, like, what's up? Like, do you recognize that? And he's like, no. So this firm, they're going to be putting a $10 million bounty on this thief, okay? Whoever comes to the auction and nabs him, they're going to get that money. So right away, we're like, hey, we're great at like stealing stuff and like attacking people. Like this is right up our alley, right? So we are all going to go to this auction. So we show up at the casino right away. There's a ton of like fierce looking bounty hunters, but they're all pretty intimidated by Van Helsing. His reputation precedes him as the human weapon. So nobody really comes up to us. And also Lenhart is there, I guess, to represent the law in this matter. We know that the law's not really going to target these criminals because they bring in money to the city, but I guess he's just there to get the thief, try his hand at getting the thief. So then the leader of the firm, the auctioneer, like kind of gathers everyone and starts to tell the rules. And he's like, we prefer this bounty alive, but like if he's dead, like haha, like that's fine. Everyone laughs, everyone's chuckling. We're like, what is happening? Like, why is this funny? But then they say that the bounty will actually be worth double alive. Okay, so we can get 20 million if we bring this guy in alive, or 10 million dead. Now, Van Helsing tells us the reason for this is that they want him alive so they can like torture him and get information out of him and just really make him suffer for targeting their firm. So we are like so distressed by this. Like, there's no need to torture someone, right? Like, he should just be turned into the proper authorities. And Saint Germain sees how distressed we are because he's like an empath. He's really kind that way. And so he says, you know what, guys, like, I'm just going to give you the loan out of the kindness of my heart. But in order for me to give you the money, you guys need to capture the thief and turn him in to Lenhart, okay? Don't turn him into the firm. Give him to Lenhart because Lenhart will, treat him with justice and they'll hear him out. They'll be respectful. They're not going to torture him. And it's really sweet because they're all like, why, Saint Germain? Like, why do you care? You never care about anything. And he's like, oh, well, Cardia looks so sad. Like, he loves us. Okay, so the auction begins. We're like making fun of the rich people, even though we have one of them among us, so maybe we should watch our tongues. And they bring out the saber, the pendant, Nosferatu's pendant. And the moment they bring it out, okay, the thief shows up. They break into the room. And I want you to just picture the thief, okay? Picture this menacing criminal who requires all these bounties to save him, okay? Was this who you were picturing? I doubt it. This little angel, just look at him. Look at this outfit. Ugh, absolutely iconic. Like, they decided the kids had to have the best outfits in the game, I guess. Like, whatever. So this little angel, he rolls up to the front of the room, and right off the bat, he's like, you humans, you don't deserve this. And I'm going to be taking back this pendant for my people, who it rightfully belongs to. And you all are never going to get forgiveness for what you did. And you are going to suffer for your crimes. And we're all like, whoa, like, who are you calling humans? Like, aren't we all humans? Like, what's going on? Like, something's weird here. Right? The bounty hunters are like, this little kid, like, is this a joke? So they run up to him and they're like, ready to attack. They like throw a punch and he just decks them. He just decks them one after another. He takes them out. He's got superhuman strength, clearly. And it's not too hard to figure out that this kid is a vampire. So he takes out all the bounty hunters one by one, and then he declares to us, he tells us that he is the current king of the vampires, okay? And his name is Delacroix II. His father was Delacroix I, former king of the vampires during the Vampire War, okay? And the rightful owner of the Nosferatu's saber. So people start shooting at him, right? It's become like this huge, crazy thing. The bounty hunters, everyone's like going at it. And Delacroix, he takes the saber and he makes a run for it, okay? Because he is a vampire, but even he can't fight off that whole criminal organization by himself. So we're all like, oh, okay, I guess he got away. But then Van Helsing's like, no, we need to capture this guy. We need to go get our hands on him. And we're all like, oh, okay, like, I guess we can help. But no, Van Helsing takes off on his own. This is something you'll see a lot with Van Helsing, where he just decides to go off on his own and doesn't take anybody else's opinion into account. Okay, so that would be a common thread, let me tell you. So he takes off, and Lupin is like, don't worry, guys, like, I know exactly where he's going to be. He's going to run to the forest. Remember, the forest was where we fought Van Helsing a few chapters ago? It's that same forest. Because Lupin's like, he's going to have to hide. Like, he can't outrun all these people, and like, I would go to hide in the forest, and like, I'm a criminal, so let's just go there. We all go to the forest. Sure enough, Delacroix is there. And he's like, wow, like, impressive that you guys were able to keep up with me, but like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to kill you all the same. Like, it'll be easy. And he tries to attack us, which is like, no. Impy puts a stop to that quickly. He jumps in front of us, and takes like a huge hit from Delacroix. But Impy, he doesn't go down. He just stands there. He takes a hit. And so, if you'll remember, in a previous chapter, I said that Impy kind of did the superhuman feat. Well, here was another one. And clearly, this is not something a regular human can do. And Delacroix even makes a comment. He's like, oh, like, that was pretty crazy that you did that. Like, could you be ... I'll leave it to you to guess who he might be. Okay, I think you probably have got an idea in your head. Just look at his smile. I think you can kind of tell. So then Van Helsing appears, and right off the bat, it's very clear that these two know each other. Okay, and they don't like each other. Delacroix is like furious when he sees this guy. Like, it's not a good look. And so these two start fighting. Okay, they're brawling, and they're clearly like, they both are very strong, and it's like kind of an intense battle. And then we hear the bounty hunters approaching. We hear them coming. And so Delacroix is like, I gotta go. I gotta take off, like, or they're gonna catch me. But you know what, Van Helsing? Come to the place where you murdered my father. And everyone's like, oh, like, Van Helsing, like, this is a 6-year-old kid. Like, you kill his father? Ew. And yeah, Delacroix's like, come to the place where you murdered my father, and I'm gonna wait there for you. And if you don't come, then I'm gonna kill you, and I'm gonna kill everyone you care about, and you're gonna pay for what you did. So we end up back home, okay? And Van Helsing's nowhere to be found. He went off somewhere. And so we're all kind of gossiping about him and like what we just witnessed. And we're a little distressed by how troubled this guy is, and also by the fact that he like murdered the father of like this little child. Like, clearly something's amiss, okay? And we end up in a little conversation with Victor about the vampire war. And Victor is like, yeah, I mean, we were all taught to like fear these vampires, right? And we know that they are the actual like villains in the vampire war, and like the humans were the saviors, right? Like, that's what we're told. But maybe like there's something deeper than that. Like, maybe that's actually not the truth. Wow, wise breakthrough from Victor. But he's not saying this in like an impartial, like, matter-of-fact way. Like, clearly, he knows more about this than he's letting on. Okay, he's kind of like really like cryptic. Like, he seems kind of troubled by this. So like, we right away know that like Victor was somehow involved in the vampire war. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Victor has a stake in that vampire war as well. So we see Van Helsing brooding outside under the stars. You know, common occurrence for this little sweetheart. Why does he not want to stay in the light? Come to the light. Get out of the dark, Van Helsing, please. Oh, he's brooding. He's upset. And we're like, what's wrong? Like, please talk to us, honey. Like, this isn't you. And Van Helsing is like, look, I'm going to go to Delacroix Mansion tomorrow. And you guys can come or not. Like, I really don't care. But I have to go. Like, I owe this to Delacroix. And so we're like, of course we'll come. Like, we'll all come. We love you. And he's like, whatever, I don't care. And he leaves. So, touching first romantic moment with him. So we all take the train the next day to Scotland to find Delacroix. And when we get there, it's like really this dark, shadowy mansion, you know, very typical vampire dwelling, okay? And then we see Delacroix in the foyer, like in front of this grand staircase, and like we realize he lives here alone in this big house, like this little child. Somebody needs to help him, clearly. And so, you know, it's time for their duel. Okay, Delacroix is like, hey, Van Helsing, do you remember this spot? Do you remember when you killed my father here? Yeah, because I do. And I also remember when you killed my mother here. Wow, like double homicide, like as if it could get worse for Van Helsing. So these two start fighting, but really it's kind of a one-sided fight because Van Helsing is just letting Delacroix like pummel him, okay? And he's just standing there, you know, he's like absorbing all these hits, but he's not fighting back. And Delacroix is getting tired, okay? Like, he's just a little kid. He can't keep up with Van Helsing, who clearly is of superior strength. And he's just like hitting him left and right. And you know, it was impressive that Impy could withstand one hit from Deli, but Van Helsing is like taking on a lot of hits. So clearly there's something superhuman about Van Helsing as well. And even we are able to tell that this guy's not human. Which now brings us to a number of 1, 2, 3 non-human entities in our group. So that's a little more than normal. So Delacroix's tired out by now, and he's just kind of sitting there, you know, he's like really in anguish. Like, it's actually a very emotional moment in battle between these two. And Van Helsing like points his gun at him, and he's like, you know, if you move, I'm going to shoot you. And Delacroix is like losing it. He's like, I have to kill you. I have to avenge my family. Like, this is what I have to do, what I've been training to do for many, many years. And then, of course, he moves, and Van Helsing shoots him with rock salt, but still, and he's just shooting him. He's like, stay down, you know, not really in like a menacing way, but more of like, let's end this fight. Like, this isn't getting anywhere, and I don't want to kill you, but like, we have to stop. So finally, like, Delacroix stays down after, like, many shots. And then Van Helsing is like, look, Delacroix, you can totally kill me, but there's something I have to do first, okay? I have to get my revenge on Phineas. And so I have to do that before you can kill me. But when I finish that, I'm going to come back and go ahead and take my life. Like, that's totally fine. And Delacroix is like, in that case, like, just kill me. Like, I could never face my mother and father again, knowing that I had accepted sympathy from you, their killer. And so it's like this tense moment, and it really takes a while for Delacroix to finally be like, okay, fine. And so he accepts Van Helsing's proposal. And so Delacroix is going to get to kill Van Helsing, but only after Van Helsing finishes his job, okay? But then we have a really soft heart, or not a heart, I guess, a soft horologium. And we are like, this little baby, like, he's living alone, like, this is terrible. And why don't we have this big house? We have plenty of rooms, like, why don't we take Delacroix home to live with us? And everyone's like, whoa, you're a crazy girl. Like, did you see what this guy was capable of? He almost, like, killed us all. And we're like, yeah, but, like, like, he's troubled, like, surely with, like, a mother's love, like, he could be a normal little boy, like, he could be happy. And then Van Helsing actually helps us out, because it's clear from this that Van Helsing, like, really feels bad for killing Delacroix's parents, and he's really, like, troubled by this, and he really feels that he owes Delacroix. So he's like, yeah, this would be best, because, you're gonna need to keep an eye on me until you kill me. Like, you're gonna need to know that I fulfilled my promise, right? So, like, please just watch out for me, and the best way to do that is if you come live at SG's house with the rest of us. And so Delacroix finally agrees, but he's not very happy about it. And so now we have this full, happy family coming to live back at our house. We end the chapter with a scene in this, like, beautiful cathedral. And it's a beautiful space, but it's made not beautiful by the characters in the scene, who are Phineas and Alistair. And Phineas is really mad at Alistair, because Alistair rolls in and he's like, hey, so we've been looking for your sister and Lupin and Co., this whole clown group, and we know they're in London. That's where we're at. Sorry. And Phineas is like, are you kidding me? Like, you guys are, like, the Twilight Intelligence Agency, okay? Like, if I wanted that answer, like, I would have gone to some kid on the street. Like, you're actually an idiot. And Alistair's, like, laughing. He's like, okay, sorry. And so Phineas is super mad. And then he's like, Alistair, you know what? On the train, like, I really feel like you had an opportunity to kill Van Helsing, who was trying to kill me, by the way, who you're supposed to be loyal to. But instead you're, like, over there chumming it up, like old pals, like, laughing it up. And Alistair's like, oh, well, I was just scared of the fireworks. That's why I didn't shoot him. And so Alistair takes off, and he's just like, like, whatever, you're useless, and I'm not going to give you a third chance, so better make me proud on this next mission. And he ends just, like, laughing creepily and, being very ominous, and he's, like, talking to his father, Isaac. And he's like, Isaac, I am going to make your last wish come true, okay? I am going to become one with my sister, just as you always wanted, okay? Super creepy guy. And that is the end of chapter 5. Chapter 6. We open with Victor. He is running through a field, okay, but it's in, like, sepia tone, so that's how we know this happened in the past, okay? Victor is running through the field, clearly distressed. He's, like, very upset, screaming, crying, and he has a gas mask on, okay? Remember that. It's an important detail. And then he stops, and he sees he's, like, among a bunch of corpses, okay? Like, really dark, scary. And he just sits there and he screams, and he's like, forgive me, I'm so sorry. He's screaming, he's really distressed, and then he wakes up. It was all a dream. So he wakes up in his bed at SG's house, and he's just kind of like, yeah, I can never be forgiven. I suck. That's all we get from that. So not really very many answers there. So we go to breakfast, as we do every morning, and Delacroix is living with us now, but he's not coming down for meals. Like, he still hates everybody, he hates all humans, and he does not care to come down to breakfast. But we've been taking up his meals because we're just kind like that. We have a kind heart. Kind heart watching. And so that's what we've been doing. And so we're all discussing him, you know, like gossiping as we do. And then Indy comes up with like a super cute nickname for him. He's like, let's call him Deli, because Deli is easier for us all to say. And, you know, he is a little baby, and like this nickname just suits him, you know? So I feel like I've already said Deli. I tried not to, but I think I already spoiled this nickname. So apologies. Then suddenly Lupin shows up, and apparently he's been gone for a few days doing God knows what. He does this a lot, so no one's really concerned. But he rolls up this time with like a massive stack of money. Okay, he puts it down on the table and he's like, guys, our money troubles are over. Like, you can thank me now. Like, we're good. And we're all like, oh my gosh, like, because it's an insane amount of money. We're like, where did you get this from? And I'm like, not me. We are like, Lupin, like, I hope this was made honestly. Like, I hope, like, you didn't just go out and, like, kill a bunch of people and take their money. And he's like, no, don't worry. Like, trust me, those guys deserved it. So our money problems are solved. That's that. So we go upstairs to give Delacroix his breakfast, Deli, as we do every morning, but he's not there. So we end up finding him outside, and he is with Cece. And Deli, you know, has been nothing but mean to everyone since he got here. But with Cece, he's being really sweet, and he's like, you know what, like, you can be one of my subjects. You can be an honorary vampire, like, and they're playing together, and it's really cute. And we're like, hey, Deli, like, I brought your breakfast. Like, that's so sweet that you're getting along with Cece. And he's like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? Like, I hate Cece, and I hate all of you. Like, what? And I'm not going to thank you for bringing my breakfast. And we're like, okay, that's fine. And then Lupin shows up. But Lupin comes bearing gifts, and he brings this huge bag of something, and he gives it to Deli. Deli opens it up, and it is all the vampire treasures. Okay, so Deli, we know he's a thief, but he has actually been doing this for a long time. He's been going to auctions, not just the one, and trying to recover all the vampire treasures that were stolen from his people, okay? But Lupin went, and he stole them all back for Deli. So sweet. And Deli's like, you know, you can tell he's really grateful, but he's like, well, I'm not gonna thank you. I'm not gonna thank you, human. And he like takes the treasures and leaves. But you know, then we're like, Lupin, thank you so much for doing that. Like, that was really sweet of you. Like, let me thank you on behalf of Deli. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, you're so sweet. Like, love is in the air. Next we take off shopping with Saint Germain. Finally, some time with him. And you know, we have a cute little moment walking through the streets. We're getting like ammo for a van, poison, whatever, chemicals for Victor. We're doing everyone's errands for them. And while we're out, we see a newspaper, a little newsie carrying the banner and selling the newspaper. And we read the headline, and it's about the train heist. And it is being pinned on Victor. So he's being blamed for the whole thing. None of us even get a mention, which is really like kind of awkward. We're like discussing that, pondering that, when suddenly we realize we're being tailed. Okay, we're being tailed, us and Saint Germain, by 3 Twilight soldiers. Okay, we duck into an alley, and they follow us, of course. And Saint Germain, you know, kind of like ducks in front of us to protect us. And he hasn't made any move yet, but it's clear like he's about to, and then one of them goes to attack him when suddenly, like, a wooden crate comes out of nowhere, and it's just, like, thrown at these soldiers, and they, like, topple like dominoes, and they're taken out. They all retreat. They're like, whoa, like, that was crazy. And we're like, Saint Germain, like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, but, like, what just happened? Like, who was that? And who was it, indeed? But Herlock Sholmes. Sholmes comes out of the shadows, and he's like, hey guys, like, how you guys doing after that train thing? We're like, last we checked, we were mortal enemies. Like, why did you say this? And he's like, well, like, I'm off duty right now, and when I'm off duty, like, the law, like, doesn't govern me, okay? But I was following you guys because, you know, I recently heard that a bunch of vampire treasures were stolen, okay? And I know they were taken by your man Lupin. And I know you guys are buddy-buddy with Lupin. Like, I know what's going on. And we're like, no, Where'd you hear that? No. And Saint Germain's like, you suck at lying. Like, we gotta help that. And so Sholmes is like, yeah, whatever, but don't worry right now, guys, because I'm not working. But I just wanted to warn you that when the military inevitably does hire me, um, it's gonna be over for you guys. Like, no one can outsmart me. And he basically tells us that the military is on the hunt for Victor, okay? And they have already been talking to Sholmes about hiring him, so it's only a matter of time before Sholmes uncovers their location. And because Twilight and the military are like very tightly connected at this point, if our location is discovered by Sholmes, like Twilight's gonna hear about it too. So it's just like not a good time for everyone. And so we're like, okay, thank you for that warning, Sholmes, and now get lost. And then we go back home. So we discuss what just happened with everyone. And like Lupin really hates Sholmes. It's kind of like a cute rivalry. But it's not cute at this point because we realize that our house is way too easy to find and we are going to need a new location and a new hideout. You know, we recap, okay? Military after Victor. Lenhart after Victor. Lenhart after Lupin. Okay, so the military is heading for these two. Twilight is looking for us. Okay, so basically we're like screwed. We have a million people looking for us. And suddenly Victor decides now is the time to start making some power moves. Okay, he's not happy with being blamed for the train. He's had enough of this. So he tells us, hey guys, I'm gonna go negotiate with Queen Victoria. Okay, I'm gonna go to the head of the chain, the top of the ladder, and I'm just gonna ask her for my freedom. We're like, okay, like, interesting idea, interesting choice. Like, what in the world makes you think that would work? And Victor is like, well, the whole reason they're hunting me, right, is because I have this information that they don't want me to leak. So if I just go to her and I'm like, hey, please don't, I'm not gonna leak the information as long as you give me my freedom, then she'll probably just let me do it. He asks for our help, and we're like, yeah, you know, we'll help you, whatever. Like, friends help friends, and we love you, Victor. Well, they do. And so later that night, we go out into the yard, as we do, and we want to find someone brooding. And this time it's not the usual suspect, it is Victor. He's sitting out there, like, really in his feelings. We're, like, being really kind to him, you know, because we're such a kind person. And he's like, I can't believe you're being so kind to me. Like, I am a horrible person. No one should ever love me. No one should ever be that kind to me. And we're like, whoa, okay, like, I was just saying hello. Like, that's a little intense. And we're like, are you going to come inside? He's like, no. I'm just going to sit here and stare at the stars and think about what a horrible person I am. And we're like, okay, well, we'll sit with you. And so we sit under the stars, us and Victor, because we're his therapist. Okay, so here is where we get another insane plan from Lupin about another scheme. Okay, and this is the scheme of Victor negotiating with the Queen. So I'll do my best to explain. Hopefully it'll be more successful than the train explanation. Basically, there's going to be a knighting ceremony at Buckingham Palace, okay? And this is where Queen Victoria personally comes out to, like, give some guy recognition. Or girl, but probably a guy in this game. So we are going to take the ornithopter. Hey, look who it is! And we're going to crash the ceremony. And Lupin is like, hey, this is perfect because there's going to be a bunch of civilians at the event too, so we can just, like, use them as hostages. And we're all like, oh, okay, Lupin, like, that came out of nowhere. So basically, we all took the ornithopter and we stashed it at a hotel. And we're all going to stay at that hotel to carry out the heist. That's where we'll be. That's where we'll take off from. But we're going to leave Deli at home with Cece in the house because St. Germain's actually coming this time. Wonderful news. And Deli at first is like, no, like, why would I house sit for humans? But, like, I guess for Cece, like, I'll do it. So that's all taken care of. So the day of the heist arrives. We all show up at the hotel. And right off the bat, we notice that it's completely empty. We're not hearing any footsteps, any people above or below us, to the side. Like, it's very confusing. And we're all pondering that, kind of wondering what's going on, when suddenly we hear a voice from outside, as loud as a megahorn, and it is Lenhart. Lenhart and the military have found us. They have surrounded the hotel. And he's yelling. He's like, wanted criminal Victor. Like, turn yourself in or we're going to raid the hotel. And then he's also like, Lupin, we know you're in there too. And we're also going to drive you out. So basically their cover was blown. Again. And so we're all deciding what to do. Victor's like, I'm going to sacrifice myself. And we're like, no, Victor, don't do that. Like, you are worthy of love. And, but it doesn't matter because Lenhart throws a smoke bomb through the window and, like, smokes us all out of the room. So we run out into the hallway. We're surrounded by soldiers immediately. Like, obviously, that was like gonna happen. And who else is there? Sholmes. Sholmes wasn't right. He was the one who found us. He was like, Lupin, like, you are so good at falling into traps. Like, it's honestly ridiculous. Like, I knew you would do this. I knew you'd go to this hotel. I deduced it all. And so I won again. And Lupin's like so mad. But, you know, Sholmes did try to warn us that now he is on the side of the military. He's helping them out. And so we are enemies at this point. And he's like, okay, I'm going to arrest you guys. But as usual, Victor has a chemical that manages to explode and moves us all down to a lower floor. So we are all safe. Or at least we think we're safe, because suddenly Twilight soldiers show up. Okay, so they have heard about this attack from the military and followed them to this hotel. So they have also found us. And Saint Germain is like, don't worry guys, like, I'm gonna stay behind and I'll battle them because I'm really strong. And he is really strong. And so we just leave it to Saint Germain. All of us take off down the hallway. We leave the hotel. We head to where the ornithopter is. But unfortunately, Lenhart and the military have found the ornithopter and they're like surrounding it. Okay, like, it's not looking good. We're cornered on all sides. So basically, Lupin and Van Helsing decide they're going to stay behind to fight all Lenhart and his guards, while Impy pilots the ornithopter, and Victor and us are going to go be the passengers. And we are going to go to Buckingham Palace, okay? So we get in the ornithopter. Lenhart's like hanging on to the side, but we manage to like kick him off and head to the palace. But as we are in the air, suddenly we encounter these military airships. They're like shooting at us. And we realize that that's Twilight that's shooting at us, because the military would never like risk hurting civilians to shoot us down. But Twilight doesn't care. They're like shooting up the town, shooting us, and Impy has to like really do some expert piloting to get us out of there. But unfortunately, we do take some damage, and we end up crash landing at the knighting ceremony. Okay, so it's this big spectacle as we crash into the palace. And all the civilians right away are like, oh my gosh, like, it's that terrorist Victor Frankenstein. Like, what is happening? This is not a regular Sunday. And they're looking for authority, you know, they're looking for answers. And of course, the only person that they would look to for answers is the beautiful, the radiant Queen Victoria. Look at her. She is just regal. Right off the bat, you're like, this woman commands respect. Those collarbones command respect. I mean, look at them. Yellow is not a color that looks good on everyone, but Victoria, like, she makes it work. I'm gonna put her by Lenhart. If you know, you know. Victoria arrives in all her splendor and glory. The guards surround us and they all hold up their guns. But Victor is like, whoa, guys, like, it would be really dumb to shoot me right now. And Victoria's like, okay, why? Like, you look pretty scrawny. I don't think you can do much damage. And Victor's like, well, actually, if you guys shoot me, I'm going to pull this switch that I have in my hand. He like has this little gadget. And I've actually put bombs all around this place. Like, they're in the ground. And when I pull this switch, like, explosion everywhere. We're all going to see heaven. And Victoria, she just starts laughing. She's like, you expect me to believe that? You expect me, Queen Victoria of England, the most beautiful and regal woman and smart woman in the world, to believe that you, little sweet Victor, put bombs everywhere and are gonna blow a bunch of people? Like, don't make me laugh. And Victor's like, hey, like, all I want is for you to get rid of my wanted status, okay? Like, I don't think that's too much to ask. Victoria is like, sure, I'll get rid of your status. Like, if you come work for the Royal Society again, if you come work for Britain again, you help us. Victor's like, hell no, like, I will never help you again, ever. So we know that these two know each other, I guess, and they do not like each other. Victoria spots us there, and she's like, oh, is this your friend? Like, I'm shocked you have friends, Victor. And she's so beautiful. Like, she looks like a doll. And you know who also kind of looks like that? Phineas. Like, isn't that interesting? And she's like, you know what, girl? Like, if you're connected to Phineas, like, I kind of want to keep you here because, like, I don't trust that kid, Denise, and I'd love to learn more about him. And he steps in front of us, and he's like, no, don't take her. Of course, like, he's looking out for us, while some people are looking out for themselves. Just kidding. And so, you know, she calls Victor's bluff. She's like, you don't have explosives out. Like, don't even joke with me. And he's like, fine, you know what? I don't have explosives, but I do have this. And he pulls this test tube out of his jacket. And he's like, this is a liquid explosive. If I set this off, we're all done for, okay? And this is not a joke this time. Like, Queen Victoria's like, oh, okay, like, he's actually serious. But, she's like, okay, go ahead. Go ahead and set it off. And Victor's like, oh, yeah, like, I'm gonna. And she's like, all right, bet, like, do it. And we can't understand, like, the dynamic here, that he's not actually gonna do it. And so we run up to him. We're like, stop, Victor. Like, do not sacrifice your life. Like, you are worth so much. And this actually kind of changes Victoria's mind. She's like, you know what? Like, that was kind of crazy that your friend just, like, ran up to save you. And you know what? Actually, I am gonna retract your wanted status, and I am gonna give you freedom. But only if you swear that you're never gonna leak that info. He's like, yeah, of course, I promise. And she is like, by the way, like, if you do leak that information, like, you're gonna destroy Britain. So do it if you dare, and you're gonna ruin this country, like, just so you know. And she also says, hey, Victor, like, it's so interesting that you haven't left Britain yet. Like, you are so wanted, and you could have just, like, left and, like, escaped the country, like, been fine. It's like, why haven't you done that? And he's like, oh, I can't tell you that, but, like, I'm not going to. So another thing that we don't know the answer to. Classic. So Victoria ends up declaring to all the citizens, hey guys, like, actually Victor, I know he's been, like, #1 wanted criminal in the city for a long time, and I know he just came in here and, like, tried to, like, do an act of terror, but actually, like, he's innocent. So if you try to hurt him, like, you'll be an enemy of me and the British crown. And we're all like, yay! Everyone cheers. Everyone's like, we knew he was innocent, that little sweet face, like, we knew. So we go back home, we have a big feast, and B cooks us up a delicious meal. And there's a big party. And even Deli joins the party, which is really sweet. He comes down with Cece, everyone's together. And Victor tells us, guys, I've actually found a lead to help us find Isaac. Finally, someone else besides Lupin contributing. Like, this is a miracle. But before he can say anything, the doorbell rings, and we go to open it. And Sholmes is standing there. He's like, hey guys, like, I told you I'd find your house, and I did. Like, it was pretty easy, honestly. And Lupin freaks out. He's like, get out of here. Like, how could you do this, like, on our party? And he's like, no worries. Like, I'm off duty. Like, don't even worry about it. But, like, can I join the party? Like, it looks kind of fun. And Saint Germain is like, yeah, come on in. Like, the more the merrier. And Lupin's so mad. He's so mad. Sholmes comes inside for dinner, and he tells us that Victoria is super mad at Twilight because they commanded those airships and, like, shot up the city, right? And she is not having that. So right now there's currently tensions between the military and Twilight. So that's good news for us because now they're not going to be working together to get a hold of our group, okay? And yeah, we have a lovely party, the whole family's together, and that is the end of chapter 6. Hello, I'm back. So, chapter 7. This is an exciting one, and I know you'll like it because I did. So, it's the day after the big party, alright? Remember that party where everyone was gathered, Sholmes showed up, it was a great time. I know you remember it because it was a second ago for you, but for me it was quite a few hours, okay? So let's just all get on the same page together. So we're trying to get Deli to come down for breakfast, okay? Tale as old as time. And he's like, no, I hate you and I hate humans, blah, 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 blah. But luckily, Cece kind of, like, pushes him out of the room and is like, okay, like, get over this, babe. And finally, he's like, okay, fine. Like, it's, like, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna go down. So we already are seeing his character development and growth, and he joins us for breakfast. Now, we're all gathered. We're just kind of chatting, pretty chill environment, but someone is giving off some very strange vibes. And that someone is Victor, okay? He's, like, staring at us, like, giving us that blue-eyed stare. We're like, what is happening? Like, and we kind of glance at him, and he just kind of smiles. So something's definitely wrong there, clearly. We then cut to the middle of the night, okay, and we are training outside. We're using our techniques that Van Helsing taught us. We're just brushing up on our skills in case we encounter any Twilight soldiers out and about, as we do. And we're getting so into our training that we're, like, very distracted. We're not really paying attention, and suddenly Victor shows up and, like, pulls us out of our trance, and he's like, hey, like, this is pretty intense, like, this little fighting, like, are you okay? And we're like, yeah, no worries. But, like, Victor is still acting, like, pretty shifty and guilty, and we're like, okay, like, we've had enough of this. Like, if we have the initial intelligence to tell something's up with you, like, something's definitely up. And he's like, okay, you're right. Like, you got me. Like, something is wrong. And that something is that Victor actually knows, he's learned some more about the horologium. And so we're like, oh my gosh, well, tell us, Victor. Like, this, we've been wanting to know about this forever. And he's like, okay, okay. And he sets us down and he basically tells us a little story, okay, a little lore dump. So basically, Queen Victoria and the Royal Society, they learned about this substance called the Philosopher's Stone, okay? It's kind of this mythical chemical creation stone thing that is basically a source of infinite energy, okay? It's like all powerful, very highly desired substance, but it's like a myth, basically. Like, it hasn't been created. And so Victoria poured like a ton of money into the Royal Society, and she was like, guys, we need to make this, we need to create this. This is priority number one. And the scientists, they tried. They made something called Zicterium. Remember that name. It's going to be important later. It's not important right now, but just put that one in there. Queen Victoria then fired on those guys. She was like, you are a waste of time, and Zicterium is good for nothing. But a few years later, they actually had someone else take on that research and see if they could kind of create the Philosopher's Stone where others could not, okay? And that someone was Isaac, okay? Isaac was placed in charge of the Zicterium research and everything to do with the Philosopher's Stone. And actually at the same time, Victor has now started working at the Royal Society, okay? So he was witnessing all of this research. And what he noticed was that Zicterium actually looks very similar to the horologium. Yeah, so he basically tells us that the horologium is some form of Zicterium. And since we know that Zicterium is very powerful and is the forerunner to the Philosopher's Stone, this means that, we've kind of got something powerful here. With the right research, modifications, anything, it might be able to become the Philosopher's Stone. Okay, that's also going to be important later. And for some reason, when we hear this, we're kind of like, oh, like, that actually makes me love my horologium. Like, I love myself because my dad made it. Like, and he must have made it for me, like, to help me. There's no other possible reason why he would ever make this creation, okay? And so we really feel loved now, and we really love our horologium. And Victor's like, okay, well, the truth will come out someday, and you're going to learn all the answers. But that's all we learned for now. And another thing Victor mentions is that Isaac has this underground research lab that contained all of his research, his findings, his tests. So if we find this lab, it's going to give us a lot of answers and the truth that we need, okay? And basically help all of us get closer to finding Isaac. So this lab is crucial, and that is the lead that he was referring to yesterday. So the next day, everyone gathers together, and Victor tells them all about the underground lab and this lead that he has discovered. And the problem is that we don't actually know where this lab is. So right now, we're currently unable to find it. And this information is like highly desired. Like, a bunch of criminals are like also after finding this because it would, I guess, make you really wealthy to find all the research of a genius. Luckily, however, he has found a way to get us that information, okay? Stay with me here. Do you remember those fairgrounds that we've been to quite a lot, okay? It was where we went gambling. It was where Van Helsing attacked us. It was where we went to the auction to find Delhi. I know you remember it. I know you do. Once again, these fairgrounds are going to be important, okay? So they're kind of a seasonal thing, right? And we're nearing the end of the season. And at the end of the season, the London firm, the crime organization running it, is holding a airship race, okay? And this airship race is called the Black Gathering. So basically all the criminals of the city, all the scoundrels, they all get their own airship and they race it against each other. And so at the end of this race, every year there's like a big fancy prize. And this year, the prize is the posthumous collection of Isaac Beckford's research, okay? And this collection contains the location of the hidden underground bunker, okay? So this is crucial. We need to win this prize. Now, a few important things to note about this, okay? Number one, I say posthumous, but we don't actually know that Isaac is dead. Saint Germain just kind of points out that, like, yeah, the collection is going to be more valuable if people think he's dead, but we don't actually know that. He could be anywhere. Secondly, I know you're probably asking, like, why can't we just go in and steal this prize? Like, why do we have to be in the race? Like, what a waste of time. What a waste of my time, your time, our time. And that's a good question. And the answer is because it is being guarded by Sholmes. Yeah, personally. And we know we cannot best Sholmes. We've tried and we failed. So we're just going to leave that be. We're going to enter the race and win it fair and square. Now, in order to do this, we need an airship, obviously. And right off the bat, everyone turns to Impy and they're like, okay, get cracking, Impy, like make us an airship. And he's like, hey, so that would actually require a ton of money and a ton of time, both things that we do not have. So if you guys get me a base airship, like I can get to work on that. I can improve it so it's fast enough or advanced enough to be in the race, but I'm not going to build one from scratch, okay? And Lupin's like, oh yeah, no worries. Like, put me on that. I got it. And we're like, all right, Lupin's pretty reliable. Like, go for it, babe. Oh, another thing to point out is that people are allowed to attack each other in this race, okay? So you can like shoot up the other ship and like nothing bad's going to happen to you. So that's why we need a really good airship. To be able to withstand these attacks and to win the race. So the next morning, you know, we're asleep in our beds, dreaming of Impy or dreaming of just people in general. And suddenly we hear this crazy sound outside. It's like this rumbling, like crazy loud sound. And we're like, what is going on? We run to the window. It's a giant airship, okay? And Lupin's voice is coming out of the loudspeaker and he's like, hey guys, good morning. And he like lands it in the backyard. Like, it's crazy. So we all run outside. We're like, Lupin, oh my gosh, like, where did you get this? Like, this is wild. And he's like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. Like, I stole it, but like, they deserved it. So yeah, I guess that's fine. I also should say, like, as a fun fact for you Isaac lovers, he actually is basically responsible for creating the airship as well. He made some substance that like helps it fly, so you can thank him for that. And it's really funny because we're like, oh my gosh, like Isaac sure did a lot. Like, yeah, he did. He really did. So Lupin is like, okay guys, this remodel, it's gonna require a lot of money. Okay, so me, Victor, SG, Van Helsing, we're gonna go and scrounge up some money for this remodel, okay? And we're like apparently unable to earn money, I guess. We've just decided that. So we're like currently without a job, right? And we don't want to be unhelpful. Like, don't get it twisted. So we're like, hey, Impy, like, can we help you with the remodel? Can we help you with the engineering? Like, we're smart, we're capable, like, give us a chance. Impy's like, of course you can. Like, I love you. So there's our job for the day. So we spend, you know, many days building this airship, building it up with Impy, helping him. You know, it's a great time bonding with him. We really enjoy ourselves. And, you know, one night, like, he tells us, oh, rest up, like, I'll keep working, okay? And we go to bed and we're like, okay, he told us to rest, but like, we really want to help him. Like, he's working so hard. And so we make him a little sandwich and we go bring it to him outside in his little engineer shack. He is so touched. He's like, girl, this is the best sandwich I've ever had. Like, you're a little angel. And he's like, you know what? Come sit with me on the roof of my shack and we'll look at the stars. So we look at the stars together and we ask him, like, hey, Impy, like, why did you want to become an engineer? And he basically tells us that he grew up in a really small town out in the countryside. And one day, a bunch of kids got together and they were like, hey, like, I heard a train is coming. And no one had ever seen a train at this point in this town. And so the second they saw the train come in, all these kids are terrified. They run away. Not Impy. He's like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. This is a genius creation. And I'm going to make genius creations just like that. So that was his origin story, or at least part of his origin story. So the day of the race arrives, all right? One important thing to note, we need 5 people to be in this race, okay? So SG, he has to come with us. Yay! And so it's the morning of, and Lupin's like, all right, guys, let's go. Let's get to the race and win this thing. And Impy's like, hey, so about that. Basically, us two, you know, we're crazy in love. Like, we forget things sometimes. And we did forget an important thing, which is that we thought the race was the day after today, but it's today. So we're not done with our repairs, to say the least. And everybody starts freaking out. They're like, you idiot, Impy, like, how could you do this, blah, blah, blah. And Impy's like, okay, you know what? Like, rude and uncalled for, but no worries. I can get it done by the 12 o'clock start time, okay? So you all go. Cardia, you go, so that we have the 5 people we need for numbers, since Deli's not going to come. He's going to sit at home with Cece. You guys register. Okay, then I'm gonna come in with the ship, but I'll get it to you before 12, so don't even worry. We're like, okay, like, I guess we have no other choice at this point. So we all head out to the fairgrounds. We immediately try to register the second we get there, and then the girl is like, so where's your ship? And we're like, oh, what do you, like, we didn't think we needed that. And she's like, no, no, like, to register, you need your ship here. So basically, we're like, well, we gotta wait for MB. But then she's like, oh, and by the way, like, you have to register by 11, or like, we won't count it. Like, this is a crisis, okay? Because Impy is thinking 12. That's already a short time for him to get this all together, okay? And in reality, it's actually an hour earlier. So we're like, oh my gosh, let us run home and tell him. And they're like, no, like, there's no time for that. So basically, we have no way of letting Impy know that he actually needs it ready an hour earlier. And we just have to cross our fingers and hope that he gets it ready before 11. So it's very tense atmosphere, okay? So we wait like an hour, half an hour left, 20 minutes left, 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left. It's like 1 minute left. And the girl's like, all right, sorry, like, better luck next year. And we're like, they're all like, oh, we're going to kill MB. Like, I can't believe it. And suddenly, at the last second, MB drives the airship in. Okay, it's a beautiful moment. He got it there an hour earlier, just out of the kindness of his heart. He didn't even know, just because of his own genius. Like, it's a beautiful moment. And he is like shouting out of the loudspeaker, like, the star is here, the star is here. And suddenly these people called sky pirates start to pay attention. Okay, sky pirates are like people who ride around in the airship and like shoot down other airships. Like, they suck. Okay, and Lupin's like, oh, like, LOL, those are the guys that I stole the ship from. We're like, what? And he's like, yeah, haha, like, isn't that funny? And then the pirates are like, oh my gosh, like, that's our ship. Like, who stole our ship? And at that same moment, Impy's like, and my name is Impy, like, just like screaming on the loudspeaker. And they're like, oh, okay, so we're gonna kill you, Impy, and you better watch out, because in this race, like, it's over for you. So they like basically think Impy stole it, and Lupin thinks this is just like hilarious. We go to tie our ship up at the dock with all the other ships. We're all together now. Impy saved the day, and some guy comes up to our ship, some crazy guy, okay? And this guy's name is Nemo. Okay, he's crazy. I love the voice acting in this game, dearly, truly. But this guy, Nemo, I didn't hear a single line he said, because he stretches out his words for about like 5 minutes. So when at second I finished reading his text bubble, click to skip. Love you, babe, but I was not dealing with that. So Nemo's like not crazy important right now. Like, don't trouble yourself too much with trying to remember him. But he basically he is in the Royal Society. He was in the Royal Society. He knows Victor. He's like, oh my gosh, Victor, like, my rival, like, my fellow genius. And Victor's like, yeah, I hate this guy. Like, he's no rival of mine. Like, his intellect, no match for my brain. So it's very one-sided, like, relationship there, sadly. But right off the bat, he hits it off with Impy. He's like, your ship is amazing. Like, you made this. And Impy's like, yeah, you know. So they're like gabbing about engineering, you know, having a good time. And then he's like, hey guys, like, want to go see my ship? Like, it's pretty cool. And everyone's like, no thanks. But Impy's like, yeah, like, show it to me. Like, any excuse to talk about engineering. So these two go off. And that leaves us with the responsibility of going through the pre-flight checklist, okay? But not to worry, because we've learned so much from Impy, and we know this airship like the back of our hands. Like, we also helped build it. So we make sure we go on board the airship, we make sure everyone knows their roles, everyone knows what they're doing, and we just check all the systems, make sure all systems go before it's time to take off. And everyone has their own roles. Lupin's going to be in the monitoring station. Okay, so he's checking for other enemy ships who are about to attack us. You know, he's gonna alert us. Van Helsing is in the weapons station, but there's no weapons because Impy took them out to save weight on the airship. And so Van Helsing's just kind of in charge of like monitoring the gas and the fuel levels. Then Victor and Saint Germain are in the engine room. So they're just going to be making sure that monitoring the engine damage and making sure everything's still running there. Impy's going to pilot, of course, because he's a genius. And we are like his right-hand man, and we're going to be monitoring the altitude. We have like a little map where we're placing like little pawns of the other ship. Like, we do have an important job, because you have to stay at a certain altitude this whole race. Like, it's part of the regulations. So we'll just be checking that and making sure we're always in bounds. So the race is about to start. Impy shows back up, and he has actually registered the ship. He's given it a name, and he's named it the HMS Impy, the Princess, and her servants, which I think is super cute. And they're all like, who are you calling servant? And Impy's like, you don't get to attack if you didn't build the ship, okay? And then just like that, the race begins. Okay, we take off into the sky. We start our engines. Right off the bat, we pull ahead into an early lead. So, of course, people start to attack us. All right, we're getting blasted left and right. Lupin's like shouting it out. Impy's dodging it. Like, pretty smooth sailing so far. Then the Sky Pirates shoot down a bunch of other ships and manage to pull ahead to second place right behind us. Okay, and they're like messaging us in Morse code. They're like, haha, like, you're next, Impy. Like, you're dead. And then Lupin's like messaging them back like, actually you are, if you come after us. Like, and Impy's like, please don't make them hate me more. And Lupin's like laughing. So they managed to hit us, but it's fine. We don't take much damage. And we managed to go up into the clouds, into the cloud cover. And so they lose sight of us. So we managed to pull ahead while everyone else is fighting below the clouds. But however, this makes all the ships kind of collaborate against us. And so now everybody is trying to like shoot us down. Like, it's actually very stressful. But suddenly another challenger pulls up out of the clouds, and it's Nemo and his ship. And he is shooting all the other ships down. And for a second, we're like, oh my gosh, like, is he trying to help us? And he's like, no, this guy wants to take us down. And I think that Nemo sees it as more of like a friendly challenge, whereas the Sky Pirates like genuinely wanted to kill Impy, but Nemo's like, oh, like, let's just like have a good like little science competition. Okay, so he's like gaining on this pretty rapidly. Then he starts to attack us, and his attacks, they hit and they do some severe damage. So we're in for a little bit of trouble at this point. And we're all like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Like, Impy, please like lead us to the light. And Impy's like, okay, no worries. Like, I planned for this. So he goes to press a button on the control panel at the pilot's seat, and it says like danger, do not touch. But he hits it anyway. And then Van Helsing from the weapons station is like, hey, you guys, like a huge like machine just raised up back here. And Impy's like, Cardia, Saint Germain, get back there with Van Helsing, and I'm going to tell you what to do from there. So we go onto the deck, okay, all three of us, and we see this like big cannon. Okay, that's the machine that's risen up. And there's like a little cannonball inside that is attached with wires to the inside of the cannon. And Impy is like, oh, this is the Van Helsing cannon. This is like, I laughed so hard in this. Basically, Van Helsing is forced to get into this cannonball. This is like against his will. He's like screaming at Impy the whole time. But you know, like, we have to do it because we're about to go down. The ship is like burning. Us and Saint Germain load the cannonball into the cannon, containing Van Helsing, of course. And then Saint Germain, we're like Impy's like, shoot it. And we're like, oh, like, I don't know. And Saint Germain's like, no worries, like, I'll do it. And just like shoots the cannonball. There's this beautiful CG of Van Helsing suspended in the air. He's got his guns out. He's shot out of this cannonball, okay? And he just starts shooting the cannonballs down that Nemo's ship is shooting at us, okay? So any missile that Nemo tries to shoot at our ship, Van Helsing shoots it down. It's a beautiful moment. Beautiful man. And then once he's done that, he manages to board the ship, but he like ties the wires up from the cannonball to the like deck of the ship so that he can get back to our ship. And Helsing is like, I'm gonna shoot everybody on board this ship. So no worries. And Impy's like, okay, but like maybe don't kill anyone because like they're gonna have to make an emergency landing. Their ship is like super damaged, so let's just like chill out a little bit. He's like, no worries. So he takes everybody out. And he's like, mission accomplished. Then he gets back in the cannonball, like attaches the wires, and we're like, what now? And then he's like, reverse it. And so we like retract him back into the ship. He like goes flying. It's like really hilarious. And he's like, I'm gonna kill you, Impy. And Impy's like laughing because he's a genius man. Then Nemo, we hear his voice, but it's too late. His ship is going down. They're making an emergency landing. And now there is no competition. It is just us going to the finish line. But we have taken on so much damage at this point. And he's like, we're going to win, but we're going to have to crash. So basically, we make this huge, like, grand finale. We crash across the finish line, but we end up winning. And we win the race. We win Isaac's research. It's like a huge triumphant moment. And at the end, we take a picture celebrating our win, and this is like the only CG I'll print out to show you, just because I think it's the most adorable picture in the world. and it's all of us together, which you never get. Van Helsing is smiling. This is something you never get, so just enjoy this. You'll never see this again. Adorable, okay? Let's just put this here to remember the good days, okay, before we get into the trauma of everyone's route. Okay, we've made it to the final chapter. I'm excited. I hope you're excited at home. I know you are. We begin in a dream. We're dreaming, as usual. What else is new? We dream of our house. We dream of the past, basically. We have kind of all of these words coming at us, okay? People being like, you suck, you're a monster. Our father being like, you can never love anyone, you know? A lot of trauma in our mind right now. We wake up, you know, from this terrible dream, and we can't go back to sleep because the next day, we're gonna go to Isaac's lab. We ended up finding the information we needed from the Black Gathering prize. So we're like, okay, we can't sleep. This is a waste of time. And so we wander out into the garden. But someone's already out there. Not someone. Saint Germain. He's just kind of sitting out there. And he's like, hey, you look really rough. Like, you look really distressed. Like, what's up with you? We are like Saint Germain. Like, we are a monster. We are evil. We can never know love. And we should not even have friends. Like, we shouldn't have any of it. Like, we suck. Sounds familiar. And Saint Germain is like, whoa, like, slow down. Like, what's going on? Like, tell me what's on your mind. Like, I'm here to listen. So sweet of him. And we're like, you know what? Like, maybe this would be good to, like, get this off our chest. Like, let's just tell him. And so here is where we finally find out the dark secret of our past that has been, like, kind of haunting us throughout this whole game. So basically, 2 years ago, when we first woke up in our empty house with no memory of anything, we kind of wandered out into the kitchen and we saw a note from our father. And he was basically like, stay here in this house. I love you. And I'm coming back for you. And so for a while, you know, that was enough for us. We chilled in our house, whatever. Then one day we hear children playing outside. And we're like, oh my gosh, like, that's so fun. Like, let me go out and join. Like, what's up with them? So we go outside and immediately they like run off. Like, super rude, like unprovoked. And so we follow them. We like run after them. We're like, whoa guys, like, don't you want to hang out with me? Like, what's going on? And as we do so, we trip over like a rock or a plant, I forget. And we lose our shoe and we cut the bottom of our foot, okay? And you may have forgotten about the poison that runs through our veins, but it does run in our blood as well. So our cut foot like is burning up, it's bleeding and it's burning up plants like as we're running. Okay, so we arrive at the village. The kids lead us to this village. And right off the bat, the villagers like don't even give a fuck. They don't even care. They start like chucking rocks at us. They're like, oh my gosh, like you're that monster from the house down there, from the abandoned cottage. And like one look at your foot burning up the crops, like we've been in a drought for years. And like obviously it's your fault. Like you are a cursed monster and you are killing us all. Okay, so they're like throwing rocks at us. We're like, whoa, like we just got here. Like this is terrible. They're like screaming at us that we're a monster. So we like run. We make a run for it. We're like, this is terrifying. So we then encounter a woman in the forest. Okay, this is important. I love that she looks like this. This is how they choose to tell this story with like these chibi figures. But anyway, this is Elaine. We encounter her in the forest. Okay, she is important. I'll put her up here with the other people I don't like. Just kidding. So Elaine is a super nice girl. She lives in a cottage in the forest. She has a little daughter called Eddie. I should have printed out Eddie, but I hate her that much, so I didn't do it. And she's like, what's wrong, girl? She sees our injured foot and she's like, hey, like, why don't you come back to my cottage and I'm going to help you out? And we're like, no, like, don't come near us. Like, we're a monster. We're poisonous. And Elena's like, no worries, babe. Like, she's not like those other villagers. Like, she has a kind heart. And she's like, come with me. Like, I'll fix you up. So we end up staying with Elaine and Eddie for like a really long time, like a month. Like, we just live in her house and we don't go back to our own house. And things are going pretty well. One day, like, a priest comes knocking on the door and he's like, "Hey, Lane, have you seen like a little girl anywhere? Like a pretty girl, um, brown hair, goes by Cardia." She's like, "No, no, I haven't." And he's like, "Well, okay, like, let me know if you do see her though, because she's actually like a cursed monster. And she's actually a test from God on this village. And so if we don't kill her, like, God's probably gonna rain down hellfire on us all. So just like keep that in your mind." And Elaine's like, "Okay, no worries." So we keep staying at Elaine's house, and everything's going well until it doesn't. The villagers find out that we're there, and they burn down our house. Okay, they burned down Elaine's house, and we're all standing outside the burning house being like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And the villagers are like, "We don't even care, Elaine and Eddie. We don't even care about you anymore, and we're going to kill you with this monster, because any friend of the monster is like also a corrupt demon." So they sick these dogs on us. But of course, you know how we behave with dogs. We melt their faces right off. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is terrible. Like, she's actually killing like living things now." So they go and they're about to kill us, right? But then Elaine steps in front of us and she's like, "Guys, like, please, like, this is just a girl. Like, she's misunderstood. Like, maybe we'll just get her some gloves and like everything's gonna be okay." And the priest is like, "Yeah, right. Elaine, we're gonna put you in a cave with the monster for 13 days. And if that monster doesn't kill you, then everything's chill. Like, she can come live with us. Like, we'll just leave this in the past. But we know she's gonna kill you, and then you're gonna be sorry. And then we're gonna kill the monster too when she comes out of the cage or cave." So they lock the two of us in a cave. They were gonna lock Eddie in too, like, really mean. But Elaine's like, "No, please, like, just me." So the two of us go into the cave and they like seal the entrance shut with a big old rock. I want you to recall something that we learned many chapters ago. I want you to recall how when we're in an enclosed space, our poison builds up and congregates in the air. Okay, and now we're in a cave that's in an enclosed space and we're with someone who isn't poison proofed. Okay, so very quickly after a few days, Elaine kind of starts showing signs of sickness. And we are like, "Oh shit, like, we're killing Elaine. Elaine is dying." So we spring into action. We're like, "Fuck this 13 days thing. Like, we're gonna burn through this rock that's with our poison that's guarding the entrance." And so we try, but it's like a huge rock. Like, it's taking us a while. And Elaine is like rapidly deteriorating. She's like, "Please, like, I have this book in my basement, like, and I need you to give it to Eddie, like, in case I don't make it." And we're like, "No," like, we're hysterical. We're like, "Elaine, please, like, live, girl." And we finally managed to burn through the rock and we see the daylight and we're like, "Oh my gosh, Elaine, like, we made it, like, we're saved." But Elaine is dead. So we are like, we have to fulfill her dying wish. Like, so we go find this book that's buried in the basement, even though the house burned down. I guess it's like still around somewhere. And we go and give it to Eddie, and Eddie like loses her mind. She's like, "Fuck you. You should have died instead of my mother. Like, I cannot believe you're still alive. You absolute freak. You monster." And we're like, whoa, like, so much for us being like a little family in the woods. So we are just kind of shut out. We have to go back to our own house, sit in our own little room, and wait to be rescued because we are a monster. So that kind of wraps up our sad story. And we're like just telling this to Saint Germain, like, we are a monster, like, we're terrible and we don't deserve to live. And he's like, "No, like, that is so far from true. And like, I pray that your heart finds peace." Like, he's really, really sweet about it. But we're like, "No, we actually are terrible and like, we don't deserve to live." And then we just go off to bed. So the next day, after that whole trauma dump, it's raining. It's a really dark, ominous day, but we are going to find a research lab. And this research lab, very fittingly, is located under a cemetery. Okay, so we all roll up to the cemetery, all the key players, and Lupin manages to find the entrance. It's like you have to open a tombstone, and there is like a passageway, like a dark staircase leading down underground. So once we get down there, we learn that it's lit by electricity, which like is a new novel thing. And you'll never guess who invented electricity. Good old Isaac. And so here is where it begins to split off into your whichever route you're on. But it's not crazy different, so I'm just going to give an overview of all of them. And then in like future videos, we'll go into the more specific routes, but it's pretty much the same, whichever route you're on. So Lupin is like, hey guys, like let's split up and we'll all go look for our own research. So depending on whichever route you're on, you go with that person to this little room with books. You're like looking around, looking for important stuff, and you find a document that like kind of foreshadows whatever you'll be focused on for the next route. So I'm not going to go into all of them. We'll go into the routes later. But just know that it's just giving you like a little teaser for like the journey you're about to go on. Then everybody regroups back out in like the main hallway, and right away Lupin's like, hey guys, like did you notice that? And we're like, what notice? And Van Helsing's like, oh yeah I did. And Saint Germain's like, oh yeah I did. And like the three of us are like, huh? But basically they have heard Twilight soldiers approaching. They found us, like who knows how and why, but they are on our tail. So this is interesting because if you remember, Victoria granted Victor and all of us immunity, right? So Twilight going after us they're going against Queen Victoria's orders. So now Twilight has gone rogue, is basically what we are getting from this. So they cut off the lights, and Lupin's like, okay, me and Van Helsing, like, we're gonna stay back and fight them, but Cardia, you go with Saint Germain, and you guys get out of here, because they're after you. And Victor and Impy, I guess you guys can just leave too, like, whatever. And they're like, no, like, we're gonna fight too, we're not, like, completely useless. And Lupin's like, whatever, your funeral. So these four stay back to fight, and us and Saint Germain take off running, and we hear the fighting behind us as we run away. And we're running, but you know, when it's just us and someone else, we tend to get separated, and sure enough, we lose Saint Germain in the darkness. So we end up finding this huge door, okay, and we go inside, and right away we hear a creepy little whiny voice. And you know who it is. I know who it is. It's Phineas. He's in there talking in his creepy way. He's like, hey, sister, like, we meet again. Like, good to see you. We're like, oh my gosh, like, no way, it's this guy again. And he's like, yeah, so actually, like, I knew you guys were gonna be here. It was actually me who leaked Isaac's research to the Black Gathering. Like, it was me. This was all planned. Again, it was all me to lure you guys to this place. Which, like, I have to give it to him, like, that's pretty impressive. Like, that's a hell of a lot of thinking ahead. But we're like, okay, like, maybe, like, you can answer our questions then, Phineas, if you're just gonna be creepy and weird. Like, please tell us more about the horologium. Please tell us more about the poison. Like, please tell us more about Father. And Phineas, like, doesn't care. He's like, no. I have a question for you, actually. And my question is, why did Father love you so much more than me? And we're kind of like, what? Like, we barely met Father. Like, didn't seem like he loved us that much. And Phineas is like, yeah. Like, you are so useless and stupid, and, like, Father loved you. So, like, what is up with that? And we're kind of like, I don't know, babe. Like, sounds like a you problem. Like, I don't know. And so he's kind of, like, riled up by now. And so he turns on the light in this room, and it reveals, like, that hundreds and hundreds of, like, big glass test tubes, okay? But they're, like, human size. This actually is really creepy. This scene, like, kind of freaked me out. So, like, it really is kind of signifies a tonal shift for the game, I feel like. So we'll have to take this part seriously. Inside each of these test tubes is, like, a freaky creature that's, like, almost humanoid, but, like, something's off with it. Like, it has scales or, like, feathers. Like, something's wrong. But they all have our face, okay? So they all are clearly, like, imitations of us, earlier forms of us. And Phineas is like, yeah, so actually you are not human. You are a homunculus. And a homunculus is something that had never been created before, but of course Genius Isaac was able to do it. But it took 600 something other iterations, all these test tubes, in order to create the perfect homunculus, which is us. And he doesn't really go into too much detail about why this is, but I'll just mention that it's to be able to house the horologium. Okay, so he had to create this inhuman homunculus to be able to house this gem. So basically, we're not human. That's why we don't have a heartbeat. That's why we can have this inside us. That's why we have our poison. we are like an artificial life form created by Isaac. Super creepy. And so we're like clearly distraught. And Phineas is taking full advantage of that. He's like taunting us. He's making fun of us. He's like, you're not human. You'll never be loved. Your little friends, do you think they'll love you now that they know you're like not even real? You're like a cursed abomination? Like, no, they won't. And then he's like, you know what? Like, come with me. Come with me where you can be of use, where you can be loved. Like, just trust me, like, this is the right thing to do. And in some routes, he will like pull out this glowing red pendant, okay? It's important, so just remember that. He pulls out this red pendant, and we immediately feel pain in our horologium when he does that. So then whichever love interest you picked, they'll like barge in at this moment and they'll be like, stop, Phineas, like, don't do this. She is worthy of love. She is no monster. And Phineas like doesn't care. He's like, okay, like, and then I'll kill you. I'll kill you and I'll take her with me. Like, you're nothing to me. He's like going crazy. He's like clearly about to kill us. Like, he's taunting us. When suddenly he's stabbed through the chest with a knife. Crazy. And you'll never guess who stabbed him. Saint Germain. There's this crazy CG with Saint Germain like behind Phineas. He's like dripping a knife through his chest and he opens his eyes. This is something about Saint Germain. We've never seen him open his eyes until this moment, but now his true beauty is reflected and it's truly a sight to see, okay? Saint Germain is like, Phineas is like, he's like shocked. He's like bleeding out. And Saint Germain is like, hey Phineas, like, how's it going? And Phineas is like, who the hell are you? Like, he's never met Saint Germain before. If you remember, Saint Germain wasn't on the train. And he's like, oh, I'm Saint Germain, but you may know me by a different name. I'm actually one of the apostles of Idea. Okay? Remember this. Apostles of Idea. And Phineas is like, oh my gosh, Idea? That is the one organization in the world that my father Isaac feared. Whatever Idea is, whatever Saint Germain works for, this is something that even the genius Isaac was afraid of. And Phineas is like, now I understand why that idiot Alistair and the rest of Twilight weren't able to find you, sister. So whatever Saint Germain, whoever he is, he was preventing them from discovering our location. So Phineas is dead. Our brother is like dead. Like, that's kind of sad. It's a lot sad. And we're kind of torn up about it. We're like, we didn't even get answers. Like, what just happened? And like, also we're sad that Saint Germain could do this. Like, he's the nicest man ever. Like, what happened? And so Saint Germain is like, all right, guys, let's go. Get in the car. And we're like, oh my gosh. And he's like, are you guys okay? Like, what's going on? And we're like, oh, yeah, we're fine. So we all regroup and we head home. And it's like the middle of the night and we have stayed in our room all day. We're like really shaken up, but we are packing up our stuff. We're packing up our things because we feel like we are a burden to everyone. We're like a monster. We're causing them pain. We've sent Twilight after them on their tail. Like, it's best for us to just leave without telling them and just get out of their hair and like let them live their lives because we don't like deserve to have a life because we're a monster. And that is essentially where the common route ends. So depending on whichever route you're on, you're going to get something a little different happening at the end of chapter 8. But I would just say that is where the individual routes begin. So yeah, that's it for the common route. I know it's insane. I like totally forgot all of the lore that goes into the first 2 chapters of this game until like recapping it now. But I hope that made somewhat of sense. And if I ever do another one of these, I'll probably start, I think I'm going to go in the order of the routes that I played them in, because I think that's the best order. And that means that we'll be starting with Impy's, the best one. So get excited. Yeah, thank you for tuning in. And honestly, I don't even care if nobody ever watches this because I had so much fun just talking about this for 2 hours. And I have no other outlet for this interest in my life. So I appreciate you being my outlet. And yeah, I could talk about this game for days. I'm almost done with the second one and will hopefully purchase the third one soon. So plenty of opportunity for content. So yeah, thank you and hopefully see you soon.